10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, everyone. How you guys doing tonight? How is the chat? What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's everybody doing?
Here.
Yes, Duke is here. He wanted to kind of just sit in the back and be quiet and listen and that kind of thing. We're waiting on Yankee. He just finished his chat. He was going to do a couple things, take his old man piss, and then hop on. So he should be here momentarily. So as a lot of you guys in the chat, if you watch the chat regularly, know I've been trying to get some debates going on this channel and trying to make them as quote unquote YouTube professional as possible, because we used to have a lot of fun doing debates back in the day, and this is the first one we've done in a really long time. So I am not here to give my opinions on anything. Duke is just a shadow in the background. I am just going to be moderating the chat between Honda and Yankee.
Well, I mean,
and Yankee is here.
Part of the problem is that I don't even exactly know what we're debating about here. Because
okay,
what happened?
Hold on.
All right.
Motherfucker. I'm laying the shit out first, and then you can speak.
Right,
Moderator. Fucking hell. Anyway, point is, this is going to be at least somewhat pseudo-professional. I will moderate. We will let everybody do their opening statements. That's fine. And then we'll just kind of go from there and let it go. And then
I might take one of my titties out right in the middle.
That's fine. There's going to be people who would love to see that. And then at the end, we'll take questions. Super chats obviously take priority there. So if you've got questions as the chat is going, feel free to drop them in.
I get a share of the super chats?
No, fuck you. I don't get a share of your super chats when I'm on your show.
But that's because I'm the star.
Yeah. Anyway. So if you've got questions for either Honda or Yankee, questions, statements, comments, anything like that, drop them in the chat. When the debate runs its course, we will go to those, and then we will address those questions that come in. Basically, how we're going to do this. Again, this is the first time we're doing a debate in a really long time, and I'm trying to keep it at least a little even-keeled and fair. So we'll try to stick to some basic rules, which is everybody gets their opening statements. Honda, you have something is the stuff you want to go through, so you'll go first. That way, Yankee has a chance to catch up while you're doing your opening statements, and then we'll go back and forth. And all I ask is no yelling or talking over each other. Not because I don't want it to get heated. That's fine. I don't give a shit about that. But so that everybody, including myself and the audience, yeah, exactly. But so that myself and the audience can actually hear what y'all are saying.
I lost the chat. Hold on. There it is.
That's my concern. We have to be able to hear what everybody is saying to actually have like.
But if somebody makes a point I don't like, how do I shout over them so nobody hears it?
Well, see, you're not supposed to. But
are we live?
Anyway.
Well, I did want to ask before we get into it, because here's what spurred this whole thing. Was a couple of days ago I was doing a chat, and there were a bunch of people who came into my chat, and we're talking about YankeeMarshal had a live chat where he said some things that made some people upset, and it was about Charlie Kirk, and I don't know what was said. I tried to go to your channel to watch the video, and it wasn't there, so I don't know what was said. So I can't make any arguments
against. Live chats for members only the next day. So
okay, well, I don't know what was said, so I wanted to give you a chance to like tell everybody or tell me what happened that day. Like, why were there a bunch of people coming over to my chat or whatever saying that? I guess just before we get into it,
because I said I don't support Charlie Kirk.
Okay.
Well, we talked about this a little bit last night on the chat. We did not get into great details on it. So I don't know if that's what y'all want to discuss. If y'all want to use that as the basis for the topic, which I think your opinions were that.
Well,
he had,
I mean, I did come up with a whole argument about like why we are here and why we're dealing with the things that we're dealing with, especially from violence from the left. And I could make that argument. We could go from there if you'd like.
But as far as Charlie Kirk goes, I didn't like a lot of his positions. I thought they were based in that Christian bullshit, which is hateful, racist, garbage. I don't like the Christian crap. I don't want religion to be a major part in politics. I don't want religion taught in schools. I don't like any of that. I don't like his opinions on gays and lesbian and his hateful homophobic rhetoric on that stuff. Now, I agreed with him on gun rights. I agreed with him on Islam and probably something else, but I can't remember what it is right now.
Well, I mean, as far as I understand, when it comes to gay stuff specifically, like he's more moderate, middle of the road,
no,
he's
100%.
If you look at the hardcore people on the right, they have way more hardcore views about homosexuality than he does.
That's like saying
his views are welcoming to the tribe. You guys can come over if as long as you believe in freedom and as long as you believe in, you know, America. We don't care about your, like, that's not the thing that we care about.
No, but the other stuff he said was downright hateful to gay people. When he doesn't think gay people should be able to get married. He thinks heterosexual marriage should be prerequisite for adoption. Those types of things, that's hateful rhetoric. When he put forward the idea that gay people, usually there's a big rash of gay people just wanting to adopt children so they can molest young boys, that's bullshit that isn't supported by any type of fact whatsoever. In fact, facts dispute it. Per capita, more people involved in the foster care system and adoption who are heterosexual abused children than gay people that are involved in abused children. Per capita, not total numbers, just percentage-wise. So he doesn't have a leg to stand on that. It's based in his religious bullshit beliefs, and I don't support that at all.
I don't think that at any point he had any kind of power to implement anything like that.
Well, it doesn't mean
he may have argued for it, but certainly there wasn't the ability to do anything about it. And even if that was something that he was able to put into power, it doesn't justify what happened to him.
Well, no,
and I think that's where a lot of people get their wires crossed. I think with what you said, they kind of took it maybe that extra step that you didn't mean to take when you said whatever it was.
I was very clear. So if they took it an extra step, I was very clear. I said, I don't like him. I don't like his positions about religion and politics. I don't like his positions about religion in schools. I don't like his position on gays and lesbians. But I said, I agree with him on guns, which is why I never talked about him, because he wasn't a threat to my beliefs, because I agreed with him on guns. He wasn't coming after the Second Amendment. So on my channel, just never talked about him. But as far as I wasn't going to pretend to like him, but I said that what happened to him was heinous. Anyone that celebrates it is heinous. I didn't like his opinions. I think his opinions are heinous. But you don't kill someone over their opinions. And I said repeatedly that if you, no matter what someone says, and you disagree with them, if you resort to violence, well, regardless of anything else, you're the bad guy. So that
1 out of 3 college students who were being taught by leftist professors, who were informed by leftist policies, who are listening to leftist talking heads, believe differently. There was a study that came out literally 1 day before Charlie Kirk got shot in the head. So it wasn't influenced by the whole Charlie Kirk situation, that showed, and it was 57,000 students who were interviewed for this thing. And 1 out of 3 of them said that at least sometimes to all of the time that political violence is acceptable if you're trying to stop someone who you disagree with. And that's unfortunately the situation that we're in today.
That you disagree with actually there, or is it that political violence?
Well, I can pull up that if you'd like to look
because
at it.
Because I 100% agree that sometimes political violence is acceptable, because how else are we ever going to have a revolution? I think the big difference.
So that's where we're going to get to my argument is, why do people on the left think that we are on the brink of a revolution, right? Why is it
mainly because a lot of people on the right are saying it? Look at all the people on the right calling for civil war.
Okay, well, let me get through this argument. This is going to take me a couple of minutes, if you don't mind. So, like, how do you unite with people that are effectively brainwashed is going to be my argument, right? So you've got media, you've got Democrats, you've got talking heads that have been saying since 2015 that their opponents, the Republican Party, Donald Trump, are racist, sexist, homophobes, Hitler, etc., etc., etc. Sometimes a little bit justified, sometimes not. You know, and if you pound something into your head for 10, like think about these kids who were like 20 years old. Half of their life they've been hearing Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler. How do you hypnotize someone?
But haven't they also been hearing equally from the right that Trump is the savior, Trump is wonderful, everybody loves Trump?
No, they haven't, because they're teachers in school, they're professors in college, from fucking Spoon all the way to fucking Cap.
These people don't have the internet.
100% fucking leftists.
These people
they're
don't
kicked
have
out of the institutions if you're not. Look at the percentages of leftist professors versus right.
I know lots
it's ridiculous.
Of teachers.
I mean, I thought I could.
But these people that are supposedly being spoon fed this stuff, they don't have the internet to seek things out.
Well, you end up in bubbles, right? You get Trump derangement syndrome is what happens, right? And there's tens of millions of people in this country today because of this messaging from left-wing organizations and etc.
Like the Biden derangement symbol system stuff
no,
people had too.
I
saw a lot of that.
It's nothing like that, Yankee.
No, I've seen a lot of
it's nothing like that. No, it's not.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of it.
So anyway,
you
get tens of millions of people who all believe this same fucking boogeyman is out to get them. And you get this thing called mass hysteria. So what does mass hysteria look like? It's like, if you believe that there's a monster under your bed, right? And you call 3 people over and they also see the monster, well, then of course there's a monster under the bed. We all see it. We all understand that there's a monster under the bed. Could we all be wrong? So mass hysteria really takes the derangement syndrome to another level.
You understand I have a psychology.
You get confirmation from people around you.
You understand my master's degree is in psychology. I was a psychologist for years, right?
Oh, so I can't talk about it because I don't
have.
No,
I'm just saying that if you misuse it, I'm going to have issue with that.
Fair enough. And if I do, I hope you do. And we can
go
into
as anything concerning politics right now, considering that 95% of the people in the country don't even watch the news, to pretend that everybody is brainwashed one way or the other. I mean,
I didn't say everybody.
Go on Twitter. Twitter's nothing but fucking rage bait from both sides constantly.
And I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm not saying everybody either. I'm saying tens of millions of Americans today have Trump derangement syndrome.
I don't think it's that many.
I think it is.
I think it's mostly
they all see the monster under the bed, and they're all confirming to each other, here's the monster under the bed. Look, there's Donald Trump, scary, stupid orange Hitler.
If that was true, I don't think he would have won the election.
Well, we're talking about not the entire population now, Yankee. Because think about this, like,
I mean, you can't just sit and say, well, everyone's brainwashed against him. He just won the election.
It's like 20%, 25% are able to be hypnotized, and the majority of the population isn't. And it's irregardless of your intelligence.
Science behind hypnosis, period.
I mean, it's a thing. So, and it's something that's being used on society. That's how you brainwash people to get people to agree to what you're talking about, Yankee.
Hypnosis is a stage thing, and it's a thing that people use for therapy sessions to recover memories and stuff like that. And that's all fucking bullshit.
I mean, you can call it bullshit, but it's a thing that people use, and it's a thing that exists, and it's a thing that people use for getting people to persuasion, right? It's a persuasion technique.
Theatrical.
Well, I mean, if you want me to keep going, I will keep going.
You can keep going, but hypnosis is theatrical.
So everyone's got this scary false belief that there's this orange Hitler guy. Not everyone. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But there's tens of millions of people in this country that are afraid of orange Hitler, right? And then you point out to them something about like, hey, if he's really Hitler, why didn't he do this? Or why didn't he start new wars? Or why, you know what I mean? Like, why didn't he do Hitler shit? And then that triggers cognitive dissonance, because you're like, oh man, the thing that I thought was going to happen isn't happening. So I'm smart and the people around me are smart. And we all know that there's a monster under the bed. But when we like actually checked, there wasn't a monster. So it's not me that had the problem. There's some other thing going on here. I'm going to make up some, I don't know, method of explaining why I'm wrong, but I was actually right.
Okay, we're several minutes into this, and I'm still not sure what we're talking about.
We're talking about mass hysteria and Trump derangement syndrome.
Okay, I don't.
We're talking about cognitive dissonance.
I don't see any symptoms in society that would indicate any mass hysteria or anything. I think buses are still running. People are still going to work. People are still going to school. I think most people live their life and don't get involved in politics. And I don't think most people are brainwashed or anything. I went to college, and I don't know about other people, but when I was in college, unless you took political science, you didn't really talk about politics.
Well, things have changed, Yankee. When did you go to college?
My son's going to college right now. He doesn't really hear a lot about politics.
Yeah, and 2 out of 3 college students don't, but 1 out of 3 seems to be entranced by what's going on, and they're buying into this mass hysteria, and they're saying things like, hey, political violence is okay as long as we're stopping people that I don't like.
Well, I don't know if that's what it said. I'd have to see the study. But if they're just saying political violence is sometimes okay, and then they're just twisting the rest of it, that's fine, because I do believe that sometimes political violence is okay. I think that eventually we're going to have to rebel in this country if we ever want to take our rights back. And when that happens, the big difference between what some people are seeing as political violence and what I think is actual political violence is when you rise up as a unified people, not as factions, but as a unified people, and you rise up against institutions, not individuals.
Right, but the thing is that people have been tricked into thinking that it's time to rise up against the stupid orange Hitler guy.
But how many political assassinations have we seen recently?
A couple. I mean, there was just one today that they literally today, the Republican governor of New Hampshire, they arrested some 22-year-old college student who was trying to kill her. You don't think that after what happened with Charlie Kirk and the publicity and the amount of attention that this has gotten, that's not going to trigger all of these crazy leftist people who already think that Orange Man is Hitler?
Most of them.
If you don't think that, you're gonna just wait around and fucking. I'll be proven right, dude.
It's not happening. Shows.
Well, I mean, just wait around and I'll be proven right, Yankee. So you don't have to fucking argue against me.
We live in a country where there are so many guns. Almost, anybody can get a hand on a gun at any time and take someone's life from a distance. And how often does something like that happen for political reasons? Almost never. It's very rare. It's very,
so this is what cognitive dissonance looks like for anybody. You can't even get through the argument to hear it. He has to explain away why he's actually right and why everyone else is actually stupid. Well, and if you're not in the same ideological shade that he is, then his arguments don't really make sense.
Well, here's statistics. How many of these things happen? Surely you did a lot of research. You know exactly how many political assassinations.
I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad, because it took me exactly 5 fucking seconds to debunk that little fucking study that you're talking about, where it showed, what was it, like 75% or something like that of political violence, or 60%?
What I asked you is, how many political assassinations have there been in the last 5 years?
Assassinations?
Yeah.
Or attempts? Because there's been plenty of attempts.
Well, attempts or assassinations.
I mean, there's been 2 on Trump, Charlie Kirk. There's been the governor of whatever with the plot. There's
but that's against Democrats.
Minnesota people.
The governor with the plot, that was against the Democrat, and the lawmaker.
Right, and it was also mostly FBI agents who were involved with it, who led. One of them, I think, had mental issues. Another one got let off by the fucking court because there were so many people. Hold on, Yankee. You can't bring that shit up and just fucking let it go.
Because you can just say a number. How many has there been over the last 5 years?
I don't know. But in that case that you're talking about, there were people that were expressly let go by the court because it was entrapment by the government. They gave them the plans. They gave them
means they're probably not going to do anything.
What's that?
Yes, that means those people could or could not have done anything, so it's irrelevant. Reality is there's been a handful of political assassinations over the last 5-10 years in this country. And you could go back 40-50 years. It doesn't really get to a large number of political assassinations. We live in a country where you're probably hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, more likely to kill your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or your spouse.
Right now.
Do you reject that notion?
At this moment in time, yeah, I do.
But
I also feel like we're headed towards a road where that will no longer be true.
Well, if that happens, then we deal with that. But I don't see that happening.
I don't think you see that happening because I think that you have Trump derangement syndrome is the argument that I'm making.
I think I I don't care about Trump one way or the other. I'm not a pro-Trump. I'm not an anti-Trump person. I
think you've listened to the mainstream media enough to the point where you've bought into the things that they're feeding you spoon-fed, and it has affected your thinking. You have been hypnotized. You've been caught up in this.
Name one specific topic.
I'm not going to name one specific thing because I'm talking about broad overarching concepts right now, and you won't even let me get through the See, again, here's a quote from the late, great Charlie Kirk. The left doesn't want to debate. They want to silence, censor, shut down anyone who disagrees with them. What are you doing right now, Yankee?
I'm debating you because you're
saying debating me, or are you silencing me, or shutting me down so that no one can hear the argument?
Shut you down. You've been talking a lot.
I've gotten through 1.5 pages. I've got 4 pages to get through here, and you haven't even let me get through a page.
But like I said, I asked you the question. You saying that you're afraid that this is going to become very violent. That's what you're afraid of, right?
I see that as a possibility. I wouldn't say I'm afraid. So
you're basing this opinion on fear. You're afraid of this. And for this to happen, you have to have very little faith in your fellow human being, because
I have very little faith in people on the left, because 1 out of 3 college students is okay with fucking political violence.
What about people on the right?
And I dropped there's been if you want to look at the study, it's in the side chat there. If you want to look at it.
But like I'm saying, I'm not debating studies right now. I'm just saying that in reality in this country, there hasn't been a lot of people on the left shooting a lot of people on the right. There hasn't been a lot of people on the left shooting a lot of people on the right, on the left, or people on the right shooting people on the left for political reasons. It just doesn't happen a lot in our country.
There's way more people who were being attacked and harassed and canceled before. Now the canceling's on the other foot. And I 100% support what's going on with canceling people for what they say about Charlie Kirk, by the way. In fact, I would say about 1,600 of them is how many should lose their jobs, which is about how many people were persecuted by the federal government for what happened on January 6th. What do you think about that?
I think that you're really muddying topics here, and you're really exposing your bias.
If you want to go around on topics, we can do that too. But I still have 2.5 pages to get through. So will you let me get through it, or can we just keep going around in circles?
When you have to bring defending January 6th into your point, then it just shows a bias.
Well, January 6th, why did they get why did the January 6th people get pardoned by Trump? Was it because Trump's just some partisan? Or was it because that the courts specifically extrajudiciously used charges that shouldn't apply, didn't let them change venues when it wasn't fair that there's 95% Democrat in Washington, D.C., used hand-picked, cherry-picked judges to put people away. A lot of these cases got turned over. I mean, you can just talk over me again if you want to, but you're fucking wrong about that one, dude. There's very few people who were charged with crimes for January 6th.
Have you ever been part of
and of the ones that were charged correctly, I doubt there were any that were actually prosecuted correctly.
That sounds like you're getting really
they should have been let off. Yeah, they should have been pardoned. And there's still some people who were caught up in January 6th stuff because of what happened in their states, when the states were like, oh, well, you got arrested in Colorado, but there's red flag laws too, so it doesn't matter that you got pardoned by Trump. We're still going to fuck you in the ass because we're the Democrats, right?
I think you've exposed where you're coming from. You're just believing a bunch of conspiracy stuff. No, and you're a Trump dick sucker, and you're going to believe whatever Trump tells you.
Facts, and if you don't understand,
you haven't said a single fact. There's not a fact that all these people were wrongly convicted. That's not a fact at all.
I didn't say all.
And you said that it's unfair to them because they're in 95% Democratic.
Yeah, that is unfair.
No, it isn't. When you pick a jury,
as long as it had an R on it.
Part of picking a jury.
No. They would convict a potato if it had an R on the potato, and you know it, and you're just making arguments out of your ass because you're disingenuous.
This is not an argument out of my ass.
Disingenuous. 100% disingenuous, that argument.
Would you shut the fuck up?
No, I won't. You can tell me to shut the fuck up, but I won't. I will talk faster and louder and more than you because that's exactly what you're doing to me. You won't let me finish my shit. You just keep talking, so I'm going to keep talking. You
haven't said anything that's important.
Okay. I don't want to mute anybody. Let's let Honda get through his opening statements because we haven't got there yet.
Was there an opening statement?
Yeah, there is. Because you won't shut the fuck up and let me get through it, you fucking pansy. Fuck you.
Come on.
I'm not going to listen to a 5-page recitement of conspiracy theories and bullshit. I thought he wanted to debate me on something that I felt or something I said. I didn't want to sit here and listen to a 5-page
rant there so people could see them. Maybe I could actually pull up something you said and refute it. But no, you're afraid of what you said. You lost 1,000 subscribers. Why? Why did 1,000 people suddenly decide, I don't like YankeeMarshal anymore?
And I don't love
I don't know, man, because you took down the video and no one knows.
No, because I don't love Charlie Kirk. And a lot of people did. I don't give a fuck. I only took down the video because some of the people who liked me asked me to because they thought I was being a little rough.
That's why. Okay, sure.
So I left it up long enough for it to lose me all my subs. I didn't care about that. I even put a link to it on my channel and stuff for people to go see it if they wanted to go see it. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to your 5-page recitation of what you think is wrong with the world in your deranged little bubble. If you've got something to say about something I said,
if you let me get through it,
there's a Trump derangement bubble
with tens
of millions of facts about violence. State them.
No. You're not going to debate. You're not going to dictate to me how I'm going to debate.
Well, then I ain't going to debate you. If you don't want to debate, I ain't going to debate you.
You don't even know what my point is.
Listen to your, like I said,
to the end here in a little bit. I just skipped a half a page for you because, like, you're right. There's some of this that I can probably skip. Okay, so would you let me fucking finish it, or are you going to keep talking?
Just narrow it down to your point. How about that? So I know why I'm here, what we're talking about. Because we're 26 minutes in, I still don't have a clue.
Right, because you won't shut up. I could have been through this in 5 minutes if you just keep your fucking mouth shut.
An opening statement is usually 30 seconds to 2 minutes, not 25.
I was going for 4, but never mind.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on with it. Come on.
Okay, so Charlie Kirk is associated with Trump. They associate Trump with Charlie Kirk. They call him racist, homophobic, misogynist, fascist, a grifter, a liar, a bigot, a hypocrite, dangerous, Zionist, etc. Right? You use these words to people who have a derangement, who don't have grasp on reality, and let's just exclude you for the sake of argument. Let's say Yankee's good, right? There's still 1 out of 3 college students who fit under this, that agree that violence is okay, right? What happens when someone shows them evidence that they're wrong? Well, 100% of everybody who knew Charlie Kirk say that he was a great guy, friend and foe. Not one person who knew him says that any of those things, racist, homophobe, misogynist, fascist, etc., is true. So if you say that to someone who believes that, you're going to trigger cognitive dissonance, and they're going to double down on whatever they said. They're going to come up with some gobbledygook answer as to what the excuse is as to why they don't like him and why he's actually Hitler or a Nazi, and they're correct. And it's just, you got to wait and see. It's just around the corner, and that's what it always is. And you tell that to all of these kids and all of these people who believe this stuff, and you wonder why we're getting increasing assassination attempts, why we're getting worse and worse violence at schools, why kids are okay with this. Do you not think that after this Charlie Kirk assassination attempt, that the number of assassination attempts on other right-wing individuals is going up already? Because I just listened to a thing from, who was it, Tim Pool and Steven Crowder saying just that since that happened, theirs have like quadrupled, and that's not a statistical data point. That's an individual data point. So take that as you will. They'll search for something terrible that they know, that someone that their friend knows about Charlie Kirk to confirm it. They will say that, they'll make arguments that he didn't make. They'll say things that he didn't say. Mm-hmm. They'll get half of the quote, but they won't get the whole quote. They'll not get the context behind the quote that changes the meaning of the quote. They'll quote him quoting someone else when he was talking about someone who he disagrees with, and none of their arguments are complete. And I don't think yours are complete. You just said a couple of things that you said that he didn't like, and that's fine. And you can disagree with them, and I'm fine with that. Because what my understanding was that you took it a step further, and you didn't, and that's good. And I'm glad that you didn't. And I'm glad to hear you say, and let me close with this as a point of agreement. I'm glad to hear you say that you were okay with, like, that you didn't have a problem with Charlie Kirk and that you have a problem with the people who are celebrating his death. I thought that people were saying that you had said that, and I had a huge problem with you because of that. So you saying to everybody that clears the air with me, and I apologize if I said anything during my rant that was over the top, but that's where I was coming from. So
yeah, I never ever glorified anyone being shot. And in fact, I made the point that if you thought shooting Charlie Kirk was somehow making a political difference, he wasn't even a politician. And I likened it to saying, if you don't like the fact that McDonald's raised the price of the Big Mac and you go up and shoot the cashier, that's basically what you did. Because Charlie Kirk's not a politician. He's not setting policy. He's got nothing to do. He's just there doing his thing. So that was what I likened it to. And I said that anytime you have a disagreement with someone and they aren't physically threatening you and you resort to violence, you're automatically the bad guy, period. There's no exception really to that, unless someone's physically threatening you. Now, I said I didn't like him. I found a lot of his opinions heinous. I probably would not get along with this guy at all. I thought he was, as someone who's a little bit racist myself, I'm pretty sure, most religious people got a little bit of racism in them, and I don't like that. I don't mind if they have it as long as they don't act on it. He supported the Great Replacement theory. I don't like that. He supported that the election was stolen. I don't like that because there's no facts.
I think it
behind
was.
it.
I'm pretty sure it was.
But there's no facts behind it. So
there's no facts behind it because they made sure there, but that's
I don't think government is that good. It's like the people who think that the Trump assassination was staged, and they ask me that.
Yeah, that's retarded.
And I'm like,
why would they be putting up? Okay, so let's hit the election thing then real quick. I forget what city or state it was.
Let me finish my point on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're right.
It's like people who said, I think the Trump assassination was staged. And I'm like, really? You think the government can do that? You think they're that together that they can get something like that done and no one's going to talk about it or nothing's going to come out about it? I just don't think the government's that competent.
Well, okay, but what if the people who would talk about it would also go to prison because they're guilty too? And why would they be putting up? Okay, I forget what state it was or what city or whatever it was. I think it was in Georgia, where they were counting the ballots and they kicked the people out who were supposed to be overwatching the ballot counting, right? Specifically the Republicans who were in the room. And then they put cardboard sheets over the windows so no one could even look into the windows. And then suddenly,
the videos on that?
Yeah. I saw them. I don't have it pulled up so you can see it, but I remember watching it that night, and I remember seeing it after that too.
And how
but my point was that was in Georgia, I believe.
Stop the count.
That was in Georgia, I believe, and then they stopped the count, and then everyone went home because they said the water pipes broke, and then all of a sudden it went like, here's Trump, here's Biden, to Biden's ahead now. Weird. We were supposed to stop counting, but I guess they didn't.
I never saw anything about that did not seem above board, that didn't go along with every other election. Yes, Democratic counties come in later because they're bigger. So that's the way it almost always works. Do you see elections where it doesn't work that way in most states?
I think we should get rid of voting machines. I think we should get rid of mail-in ballots. I think that everything should be hand
mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots are paper ballots, and they're very secure. I think everything should be paper, in person, or mail-in voting.
I think they should clean up the voter rolls. They should get rid of all of the people who are on the voter rolls who shouldn't be on them, all the dead people and all the et cetera, because there's a lot of that going on. And that's where those mail-in ballots become a problem, is because there's supposedly a whole bunch of people who were on that voter roll list that aren't taken off, that they send ballots out to and get them back.
That were not alive, then it would be a problem. But there's no problem with people voting that aren't alive. There's no problem with people voting fraudulently. In fact, when people do, they get caught, and it's big news because it's so rare, because people it's something that's almost impossible to get away with. Even mailing in your mother's ballot. As soon as that one guy that mailed in his mother's ballot, he got caught because it's very hard to do something like that and get away with it. And even if one or two people
I disagree.
Do you think it's going to be enough to affect anything?
Yeah, I do, especially when there's certain areas where the vote was really close and you could just sneak in a couple thousand ballots.
Where do you think, where was there enough fraud, you think, that would have made a difference?
I'd have to look at it again to specifically tell you. I know that there were certain jurisdictions and states that had very, very close votes and then also had some fishy things going on. There's reason for investigation, and that's what January 6th was about. If you ask anybody who was there on January 6th...
Let me ask you a real serious question, though. You said there were fishy things going on. Do you believe that because you saw something that wasn't normal in other elections, or because someone told you something fishy was going on?
No, I believe what I see with my own eyes, and specifically in Georgia, when they're like, hey, everybody, go home, we're done counting. And then they turn off the lights and people leave and they look at. I saw the video where they're looking at them through the fucking windows and then they leave and
but they didn't say everybody go home, we're done counting.
And then they pull out, counting. Excuse me. And then they pull out ballots from underneath tables and
No,
start counting and putting them through as fast as they can.
The whole thing.
It looked fucking fishy. That's what you asked.
You're getting into conspiracy theories.
That's what you asked. It looked fishy.
That was the whole thing about pulling out the ballots from under the table. That was the whole center of the Giuliani thing, where he lost his case for slander and lying and making something out of nothing. So you're still using stuff that's already been debunked to
or them showing up with suitcases full of ballots and like regular cars where they just drop off a fucking bunch of ballots. And, like after the time that the ballots are supposed to already be in with no fucking chain of custody as to who had them. Because they didn't collect the fucking signature sheets to go with them, and they didn't match the signature sheets. So that would be the. I mean, you can keep saying it never happened. I'm not coming up with these arguments out of my ass. That has already been debunked. By who? Show me.
Why are you there's cognitive dissonance right there. Why are you continuing to stick to theories that have already been heard in court by juries of their peers and found to not be true?
Dismissed on like whatever they could use to dismiss it. I don't like how many of those
you're doing exactly what you said earlier.
Well, hold on.
When it turns out you weren't right, you double down. You're doing exactly what you said.
How many of those cases were actually seen by a judge? Where they had like everyone come in and have the whole case shown, or how many of them were dismissed by a judge before anyone could actually make their fucking argument?
The Minion launched
because most of them, my understanding is, and I could be wrong, that the overwhelming majority of those cases were just thrown out because they're like, oh, you filed it too early, or oh, you filed it too late, or oh, you didn't cross your T and dot your I correctly.
Will get thrown out because they don't have standing. But the people that did have standing, like the Minion, those cases got heard. And Rudy Giuliani got ruined by those cases. Fox News decided to spend $600 and something million when they lost their case just to keep it quiet. So you're doing exactly what you said the left does. You thought there was all this malfeasance. Turned out there was really no provable malfeasance.
Again, I don't think that they disproved it. You're saying that they disproved it, but I don't think that they did.
That's because you're doubling down on your conspiracy belief.
No, because I'm saying that there are lots of court cases
you're doing exactly
that they were like, oh, you didn't file this on time and threw it out.
That happens with a lot of cases.
So if you didn't file it on time and you didn't look at it, how can they know that there wasn't?
But all the same
fraud?
Stuff got heard.
How can they know? How can you know? Specifically, because there wasn't fraud. The court didn't even look at it. Yankee.
I followed the cases that did go through, and all that stuff was covered.
Okay, what about the ones that
against Fox News, the cases against Newsmax, the cases against Rudy Giuliani by a company that actually had standing, so the cases actually went. Everything was shown to be above board. Even the governors of the states and the attorney generals of the states who were Republicans said none of this is happening. And then when you heard that, you decided you were going to double down on your belief over fact. So you're doing exactly what you said the left was doing.
No. I think there were like 90 cases that were brought to courts. I think there were like, and I'm talking about the election. I'm not talking about Rudy Giuliani and all the other bullshit. I'm talking about
same stuff
Trump's cases that have to do.
That's what they were talking about.
I am talking about Trump cases that have to do with the election. There were multiple lawsuits, multiple things filed with multiple courts across the country, and almost every single one of them got thrown out of court without being looked at, without the facts being shown. Excuse me, without the facts being showed, without the jury looking at it, and just being like, you know what? That proves, because I'm on the left, that all of this is bullshit. And then a bunch of people showed up to Washington, D.C. on January 6th to say, like, hey, we see a bunch of shit that's bullshit. A couple people got violent. And then the left was like, "Oh, you know what? Here's our opportunity to
you would have to be living in a fantasy world."
No. I'm not. I'm telling you how things are, Yankee. You're living in the fantasy because you don't see truth for what it is. I'm spitting fucking truth right now.
You think
why didn't they? Okay, so why? What? Tell me this then. It's the dog that's not barking. Why would CNN never at any point, or MSNBC, or any of your precious leftist news organizations at any point ever, yes, yours, ever at any point, bring on a Trump supporter who got arrested for January 6th and have them ask a simple question? Why were you there on January 6th?
Talking bullshit.
Why were you there? Did they ever ask that? Well, I don't know. You keep talking over me, Yankee. You can't even listen to my question, can you?
Or MSNBC. You just made a claim that they're my golden channels. When do I ever watch those channels?
I don't know. You must.
Never. No, never. I don't watch the public news, period, even.
Okay, so why did they never ask? We'll drop that part. Why did they never ask a person who was at January 6th and got arrested and charged why they were there. It's never happened.
Well, why would you go interview someone that was a criminal that got charged?
Why wouldn't you?
You think they're going to give you?
Why wouldn't you try to understand?
Why don't they go and ask people who commit, violent acts of mugging or something? Why doesn't the news go to them and ask them, why'd you do it?
Because that one's obvious.
Just don't do it. It's not something.
Because it doesn't fit their narrative is the answer.
No, because
they say, they were there to overthrow the government. There wasn't a single person who was walking in Washington, D.C. between the red velvet ropes, taking pictures and streaming or doing whatever they were doing, who was there to overthrow the government. Not a fucking one person had that in their mind. And if they had interviewed anybody, they would have known that. But then people like you were like, no. Cognitive dissonance. Oh, I got to go through 7 different angles.
To everybody a little bit ago, you're doing exactly what you said.
Oh, that's the other thing. What does the left do? It projects. It's a confession through projection is the term. Right?
No, I think, dude, you've seriously got some mental illness nowadays since I haven't talked to you in a while, because you're doing exactly what they say. Maybe you need to cut down on the marijuana.
I'm doing exactly what they say.
Paranoia is affecting you. Are you still smoking a lot of marijuana?
I do on occasion.
Well, then maybe you need to cut it down, because I think the paranoia is affecting your decisions.
No.
As someone who used to be very friendly with you, and still is, as far as I'm concerned, this is just a disagreement. I think your paranoia is taken, because a lot of the things you're saying, like how it's going to get real violent.
Yeah.
Well, until it does.
Just wait, Yankee.
Well, I hope it doesn't.
I hope it doesn't, but it will, because the rhetoric has not changed from the left. The people who are out there who have Trump derangement syndrome, as the point that I was making,
I don't think most people
are still out there, and they're listening to these dog whistles from people who are like, Hitler, and they're like, you know what? If Hitler's out there, I'm going to take him out, and I'm going to go down in history as the guy who took out Hitler, and everyone's going to love me. And then they're surprised when they're like, oh man, I got arrested? That's weird. Oh, I got fired for reposting that when they killed Hitler's minion? They killed Hitler's minion, and they fired me for it? I don't. That doesn't make sense. Cognitive dissonance. Oh, I'm not wrong. It's everyone else.
None of what you just said is cognitive dissonance. But do you think most people want to kill somebody, or even a significant portion of people want to kill somebody?
I think 1 out of 3 college students are okay.
No, I don't know. What they said is not. That's not them saying they want to kill somebody. Especially not if it's worded the way I remember it being worded. It was just about whether political violence is sometimes justified. There wasn't that if you disagree with them on the end of it. It was just, is political violence sometimes justified? Which I think all 3 of us in here would agree that that's true. Would you agree that sometimes violence is justified?
Yeah, I would.
How about you, Never Enough Ammo?
But I would also say that.
Well, let Ammo weigh in.
Okay,
hold on. So I've been looking at the study that Honda brought up. First of all, this was 68,000 people, and the specific question was, do you believe violence is necessary to stop speech you are opposed of? Was the specific question.
And who's that? Who was that? Did that study?
This was Free Rankings, 2026 Free speech rankings.
Oh, it was only 2%.
Survey. I'm sorry.
2% of
2% said it was all the time. What was it? 15% said most of the time, and then like 16% said sometimes, or I forget what the word
13.
Was. But there were 3 different groups of people who all said it was okay.
When combined, say it's rarely.
Rarely is sometimes, and you know what? When it's speech of someone that I disagree with, so being stopped with violence. I think the answer is never. Is it not?
So when combined with the 19% who say violence is rare, but sometimes acceptable, that's only 23,000 students who are willing to answer using violence against speakers they disliked as a valid opinion. I'm not seeing who this study was done by, because the study I saw was, do you believe that political violence is sometimes acceptable? That was an actual study. I think it was done, but not by Pew. But what's the other big one? Not Pew. Oh, I'd have to look it up. But I don't know who even did this study. I'm not seeing anything really about it.
Well, and then
I'm not seeing them.
Look at the studies that the leftists have all been talking about when they're talking about political violence, and they say that 2/3 or 3/4 of political violence is coming from the right, not the left. And I look at that, and I look around at the world around me, and I don't see that matching up, right?
Well,
it doesn't make sense.
It matches up, but because it's taken out of context.
Well, but then you got to look at why is that? Well, they threw out all of the people who got arrested in January of 2017 that got arrested for Trump's inauguration. They completely skipped the Summer of Love because basically if it was any kind of black on minority violence, they threw it out. And then specifically there was the I think it was in Portland, the Trump supporter who they saw him on the street and they're like, oh, there's a Trump supporter, get him, cap, killed him. They didn't count that as a political murder for some reason. And if you don't count that one as a political murder, then I don't care what the fucking rest of your study says. It's a bunch of bullshit.
I don't know if they count that or not. But
no, I looked at, okay, so source on that was Steven Crowder did a video yesterday.
Steven Crowder, yeah, there's not a source. That's not a source.
That is a source because he's got a team of people and they would be sued if they were incorrect. So when they put stuff out there like that, Steven Crowder's got money, he's got a team. If they were putting out information that wasn't verifiable, they would absolutely necessarily get sued into oblivion.
You think Steven Crowder never says things that aren't verifiably true? That aren't verifiably false, I should say?
I mean, I think he's been sued for it before, and I think that he's probably very careful for that now. And when he puts out something, I have more trust in what he says. Out
false information. He's been sued and lost multiple times, so he obviously does sometimes put out false information.
Okay, if you get slapped across the face, you're gonna keep doing the thing that gets you slapped? No, that's the point of getting slapped across the face. It teaches you a lesson.
Not always, no.
Not always, yeah. But I think in this case, I mean,
especially
maybe I'll be wrong.
What it costs you is less. If what it costs you is less than what it earns you, well, then yeah, you'll take the slap in the face. It's like saying businesses who get fined for hiring illegal immigrants won't do it anymore. Well, yes, they will, because what they pay in their fines is way less than the labor costs they save, so they continue to do it. So if it makes him more money to lie, so certain people will believe in him, of course he'll still lie. If that makes him more money than it costs him when he gets sued, you just have to be careful what you say so that you don't get sued.
Well, again, I'm using that as a source. I think that that as a source in this instance is correct. I could be proven wrong in the future, but at this point, I don't think I am. So,
well, here, let me ask you some questions now. Real
sure.
Yeah. Just if you had to rate your support of Donald Trump on a scale from 1 to 100, where would you put it?
Like 75.
Okay, and if you had to state which positions of Charlie Kirk do you strongly support, which ones would they be?
Which things that Charlie Kirk, I mean, the things that he stood for were family and hard work.
I'm talking his positions, not his buzzwords. His positions.
Well, these are the things that there's a lot of things that Charlie Kirk talked about and spread throughout the youth, especially through what's the organization, TPUSA, Turning Point, where he took kids who were in liberal islands at these colleges, which is how I see it, like it or not.
Oh, no, I agree 100%. There's a lot of stuff that they should be exposed to that they're not because of...
Right, and they didn't, like, if you're a right-leaning student, you really feel like you're alone out there. You have nowhere to go. So he gave these students a place to go, and that was something that I find very useful and very uplifting. And I think that that's the message that a lot of the people are missing about Charlie Kirk, is how positive and energetic and uplifting and supportive and good he was for a lot of people around him. You know, if you listen to the people who were directly around him and influenced by him, that's what they all say, is how great of a person he was and how hard
all the people who know me and all my friends and family would say the same thing about me when I die. And we all know it ain't true, but I hope they'll say it. But I agree with all that. I'm just talking about, like, which of his political, let me name a few that he held. Do you think heterosexual marriage should be prerequisite for adoption?
No, I don't think that it should be prerequisite.
You disagree with that? Do you think gays and lesbians should be allowed to marry?
I mean, yes, they should be allowed to be married. Should they get the same tax benefits if they don't have kids? No, I don't think that they should. Well, I think that's the point of marriage, is to have kids, and that's why you get the tax benefits when you get. That's my opinion. If you get married, that's the point, is to have kids, and that you should have a little bit of tax incentive to have those kids. So that's what they give you.
I'm almost a believer you should pay more taxes if you have kids, to be honest. Because
I mean, then we just have less kids in this country. We already have a problem with that. Like, it's the opposite.
I don't have a problem with it. We can cut it down a lot more. Also, how about, do you think the church should have a leading role in politics?
Leading role, no. Should it have a role in politics? Yes. And when Charlie Kirk was talking about that, I was looking that up. There were 3 different quotes that he had. I think there was one that he was talking about fighting back against the leftist policies, so we need to fucking like try to introduce our own things. And there was some, he wanted church as a leading role in some ways, but
so
I don't
don't believe in the separation.
You have to look at the context of what he said those in. I think that blindly saying that he wanted a leading role in church doesn't.
No, he was very clear about that. He was very clear.
No,
He said himself in an interview I just watched yesterday that he would be considered what some people would call a Christian nationalist. He believes that being a Christian and being an American are intertwined and should be hand in hand, inseparable. Do you agree with that?
Hand in hand, inseparable? No. Do I think that we're a Christian nation? For the most part, yeah. We were like, how many of our founding fathers were Christian?
Not many of them.
Almost all of them, actually.
No, not many of them.
Almost all
were deists. And deists back in the day was 90 like saying,
or 95% of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence.
Saying you're a deist back in the day was basically like saying you're agnostic. They were mostly deists. Even one of them even wrote his own Bible where he took out all the God stuff and all the religious stuff because he didn't believe any of it. The Jeffersonian Bible. And in this, when they wrote one of their first official government documents where they were signing a treaty, they stated that the United States is not and has never been a Christian nation or a Christian based or a nation based in Christian faith. So you're contradicting them.
I think the separation of church and state has to do with us not having an official religion like the Church of Britain.
It doesn't just say that. It says shall not endorse any religion.
But we also grew up morally on third base because of the Christian morals that have been instilled into our country.
No, Christian those morals existed long before Christianity did. A lot of nations that weren't Christian nations had basically the same morals we do.
Except for the Muslim ones.
Well, that's different. That's Islam. And I that's one thing I did agree with Charlie Kirk on. I think Islam is horrible. The only thing where we vary in that opinion is I didn't think he was genuine enough to take it to where he included his own religion in that. He was one of those all 9,200 and something other religions are false and some of them are violent and nasty, but mine is fine. You know, so that's where I think he didn't take it far enough. And as far as not believing in the separate, but let's remember this. Charlie Kirk believed in a full separation of church and state before Foster Fice. Are you aware of that?
I don't know what you're talking about now.
You don't know who Foster Fees or whatever his name is, Fies is?
No, I don't know who that is.
That was Charlie Kirk's billionaire backer, the one that helped him start Turning Point USA and paid all his expenses and told him what to say and all this other stuff.
I don't think anyone told Charlie Kirk what to say.
No, it's pretty well documented that when they signed their agreements that he would back their stuff. He had a full say in what the agenda was and what was said.
He might have had a say in the agenda, but I don't think
they met in 2000.
Words were controlled by
when they met in 2012, and Charlie Kirk, convinced him to be his sugar daddy, basically for like they all have for their big programs, because nobody starts this stuff from the ground up with nothing. He pretty much changed a lot of his opinions overnight, especially about the separation of church and state.
I mean, you'd have to show me
to get the money.
You'd have to show me the paperwork on that one because I don't know anything about that.
But do you not know that he supported church and state separation before that, and then after that he changed his opinions?
I know he changed a lot of his views. Yeah, he did, because he was open to listening to people, and he was open to good arguments, and he was open. He
suddenly decided the Constitution didn't matter as much.
I don't know anything about that. So
do you really know a lot about Charlie Kirk, or are you just upset that he got shot? And it's like, were you a fan of his?
I mean, I would say it's not like I watched everything Charlie Kirk did, but yeah, there was a lot of things that he said that I agreed with. There was a lot of times that he spit facts that I was like, yeah, that needs to be said. There's people that need to hear that, and they don't like it when they hear that. And someone like Charlie, who is so calm and measured and able to articulate these things in moments of stress, is someone that we need. And that's someone that's going to change the argument and change what people are talking about and maybe move the ball a little bit, and that didn't happen anymore because they shot him. And now we got maybe it's actually like it's moved it further because they shot him.
I think somebody else will step up and take the ball. I don't think the things he was right about are suddenly going to become wrong simply because he's not the one saying them anymore.
No, I think if there was someone else who could have been Charlie Kirk, they'd already be doing it. I mean, maybe there's some kid
they don't have a billionaire backer. Charlie Kirk wasn't Charlie
coming
Kirk
up today that's going to take his place eventually. But as far as the talking heads that are out there trying to do what he did, there's no one that was on his level. If
a billionaire right now went out and tried to find someone who was devoted and actually knew the facts and actually could talk well, they could do it. They could do it in a minute. Charlie Kirk wasn't, an aberration. There's lots of people who can intelligently put forward their opinion. There's lots of people who can talk to people without getting, I hate their fucking guts right afterwards. We do that all the time here. But some people could even get angry and still get along afterwards. I don't know if Charlie Kirk was good at that because I saw a couple of his debates where someone got the better of him and he didn't look too happy about it. But like when he was trying to argue,
some of the people that come up to him during these debates, they're not trying to get like information or a new position or a new view. They're there like demons, just screaming in people's faces, screaming over people.
I'm talking about the decent ones that actually had a good.
I don't know how you could deal with that and not be. I mean, he stays calm. I would be upset.
Punch people in the face. I would have punched someone in the face. That's why I don't do that.
That's why.
But like I said, it's like when people come and ask me, used to be when I first did my channel, people would be like, oh, you need to come and speak at our event. You need to come and do this. I'm like, well, no, for one, I don't want to be the person up speaking. Plus, if someone comes up and is an asshole to me, I'm going to punch him in the face. And I don't want to put myself in that situation. I have a bad temper. So I don't think Charlie Kirk was an anomaly. I think he was good at what he did. Now, was he doing it for free? No, he wasn't out there doing it for free. He wasn't
Would you say he's a martyr?
I think someone made him a martyr. I don't think he wanted to be one.
Do you think that what happened to Jimmy Kimmel is cool or acceptable?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it yet. If it turns out that it was done by the president through his minions and that other guy who's trying to negotiate with him to get a special deal to break the monopoly laws and do a merger that he shouldn't be able to do. If it turns out it was all part of a deal with the White House, well, then that's a First Amendment violation, and I'll have a problem with it on that. As far as Jimmy Kimmel, I've never seen the Jimmy Kimmel show, so I don't know whether it's a good show or not, but I'm betting it's
the joke was something about, like...
I read what he said.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, and I thought he was saying something terrible about Charlie Kirk. He didn't even say anything bad about Charlie Kirk. He basically said Trump didn't seem too upset because as soon as I asked him about Charlie Kirk, he started talking about remodeling the ballroom.
And I think the outrage is coming from the fact that...
Hold on, time out. That was bullshit. That was one of the things Jimmy Kimmel got caught on. That was an interview from 2024 that they...
I didn't say it was true, but that's...
Yeah, no, I mean, that was one of the things that was brought up. That was one of the things that was brought up as to why Disney came down on Jimmy Kimmel, because they're afraid they're going to get sued because of him, because that was a quote from they basically dubbed over a reporter asking a question about Charlie Kirk and then played it over a 2024 interview he had done when the White House was getting worked on, and it wasn't the same thing. So that was one of the things that apparently played in.
Trump actually says we're all very heartbroken about Charlie Trump, and I'm doing very well. But like I said, I don't know if that's true or not. But here's the thing that I thought. I thought that Jimmy Kimmel went on there and said, "I'm glad they shot Charlie Kirk. He's a disgusting human being," or something. But he didn't really say anything about Charlie Kirk. He made jokes about how President Trump reacted to supposedly being asked about Charlie Kirk.
Well, the other thing that he did was
didn't say anything negative about Charlie Kirk.
The shooter has been outed as a leftist, trans dating gay person who's got a picture of him with an Antifa pride flag on his chest and all the other things. And he was like, "Oh, well, he was raised in a Christian conservative house, and he's a Christian conservative."
Which was true at one point, yeah.
Well, at one point, but not when he did the shooting, certainly.
No, that was outdated information, so I don't know when he said it. Did he say it before that became outdated information or after?
That is the accusation, is that was well known
But even then, that's nothing really bad.
But
So
it's a
if the
joke.
White House was involved in this, if the White House said, yes, I want him off the air, and pressured pressured Disney and pressured ABC through the FCC and their appointees at the FCC, and another guy who owns a lot of ABC affiliates who is trying to get a special deal put together with the Trump administration right now so they can violate basically the monopoly rules. If that's all true, and it turns out that Trump asked them to do this, well, then that is a First Amendment violation, and I can't stand for that.
What about the Destiny thing? Are you familiar with that?
I never know if I mentioned
a little bit last night on the chat.
Yeah. I don't know who he is. So, I mean, I looked him up since then. Still don't know who he is, but no, I don't care who he is.
Well, he's fairly popular, especially with the far left. Far left loves Destiny. He's one of their spokespeople, their talking heads, etc. And he was, as far as I'm concerned, and you can make another argument, what he said was basically outright incitement. And he's using the language, the dog whistles of the people who have the Trump derangement syndrome that I'm talking about. And I still think that that's a thing. And I know you disagree with it, but I mean, 10 years of messaging gets through to people eventually. And, they talk to each other and they agree with each other and they live in bubbles, and that's a thing. So, and he's talking to those far left people and saying these things. It's inciting violence, and it's going to cause more violence against right-wing individuals, especially once you show up in public.
I don't think it will, because here's the thing. Most people don't want to commit violence. Most people aren't mentally ill. Also, even people that are mentally ill, most of them aren't going to commit any violence. And the people calling for the violence, I think most of us are smart enough to know if you're out there calling for violence, well, then you ain't going to do it, because you wouldn't do it if you're out there saying you're going to do it. And two, that just means you're too big a pussy to do it, and you're hoping that someone else does it. And most people, I don't think, are going to fall for that. I don't think we're going to see any huge spike in political assassinations over the next year or 2 years or anything.
I mean, I think that at least attempts will be up. I don't know if they're going to be successful. I hope that they're not. I hope that security teams or whatever. But that's another point. It's like, if you are a left-wing individual, you need to have security. If you're a right-wing person and you're showing up in public, you need fucking security, because
do you not think the left needs that now too? Because what about people like the Proud Boy member that said, if you're a liberal, I'm hunting you. If you're pro-gay, I'm hunting you. If you're this, I'm hunting you. He put that on his, I got that sent to me not too long ago about that.
Crazy people say crazy things.
Yeah. So, but crazy people do crazy things.
Right. And when you get
very few, but they do. So you got to be worried about
crazy people out there who are all like, Donald Trump is Hitler. Yeah. Most of them aren't going to shoot him. Yeah. Most of them aren't prepared to do the violence.
Well, what about the people on the other side, the MAGAs that think Donald Trump is the
pool, that some of them that there are is actually a lot of people.
But what about the people on the other side that think Donald Trump was appointed by God? Would you call that derangement?
Yeah, probably. I don't know if
so there's people on both sides that are deranged, but it's just
I call it deranged. I wouldn't call it derangement.
I wouldn't call any of it derangement. I would call a lot of it just misinformation, but I don't think most of them are going to act violently on it. I'm not going to act violently. I'm not going to come to your house and kick you in the taint for being a dick. I'll just deal with it. And most people, I think, are like that. So I have faith in most people, that most people don't want to commit violence. It's like what Ricky Gervais said when the woman asked him, like, hey, if you don't believe in God, if other people didn't believe in God, wouldn't y'all just go around killing everybody you wanted to? And he said, I already do kill everybody I want to, which is nobody. And I think most people subscribe to that. Most people just want to live their life, be happy, and they don't get involved in all the really divisive stuff. Now, I do believe a bigger percentage of the population have bigoted opinions, racist opinions. I have some bigoted opinions, racist opinions. I try to overcome them every day. I'm not saying that we all don't have problems, but I'm saying the 99.9% of us aren't going to murder anybody and don't want to murder anybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, you've got a big enough group of these people, tens of millions of far leftists, I would say.
It's tens of millions.
Okay, what's the number then? 10 million?
I don't think it's even close, because like you said, even in that study you quoted, which I don't see any source for, which would validate it in any way, saying that you think violence is sometimes acceptable doesn't mean you're not saying I would do it. It doesn't come close to saying I would do it. That's like me saying, yeah, I think sometimes fucking a tranny's okay. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
Yeah, well,
so
most Muslims don't commit acts of terror, but most of them are okay with it.
yeah,
but there's just a small percentage of them
but
that
most of them
do
don't commit
acts of
acts of
terror,
terror.
and then you get things like 9/11 that happen. I mean, it does happen.
Yeah, but that's still saying it, in the reality, it's like the old saying goes, most Muslims aren't terrorists, but all terrorists are pretty much Muslim.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's the majority of people.
Antifa. Okay, that's a good question. What do you think about Antifa being declared as a terrorist organization?
I don't really care one way or the other.
Do you think they've acted like a terrorist organization? Do you think they've used terror for political reasons?
Well, I haven't seen them do any big acts of terrorism. I haven't seen them blow up any buildings, so they're not on my radar. But I've had my own personal negative interactions with Antifa.
Didn't they burn down the police precinct somewhere?
No, they didn't burn down a police precinct.
I thought there was something like that.
That was false information that people. And I was actually standing in front of that police precinct building when people were saying it was happening. Okay. I was there at the actual event because I go to these things and I actually interview people because I'm not afraid to talk to people. I'm not afraid of the other side. I don't think, oh, they're going to kick my ass. I'll let them fucking try. So I go to these things. I go downtown and talk to the Proud Boys when they're down there. I go to the Chop and talk to those people, the Anarchists and stuff, because I ain't afraid of them. I'll go talk to them.
What do you think about the?
Well, let me finish. I was standing in front of that building when people were like, Antifa just burnt down the police district in Capitol Hill in Seattle. And I got online and said, no, that didn't happen. I'm standing right here in front of it. But the people who were saying it, like Guns and Gadgets and Mr. Guns and Gear, they immediately started attacking me and doubling down on it. Even though I'm standing right here live streaming the building. Right now, there's no Antifa here. There's no Black Lives Matters lined up around it with rifles. There's actually the assistant chief of police is on a stage right in front of the building giving a speech right now. So
it was in Minneapolis. That's where they burned it down. That's what it was. It wasn't where you're at. There was an entire police precinct in Minneapolis, Minnesota that they burned
that was down during a riot.
Right, but who burnt it down?
I don't know. I don't know if they ever said exactly who burned it down.
If I remember correctly, it was an
rioters
Antifa thing, but I could be wrong.
There ain't enough Antifa people.
It's been a while.
There ain't a lot of Antifas. Antifa's the boogie word. It's like saying neo-Nazis. I don't think there's very many of either one of them.
They're the ones who come to when there's like a rights organization having a function at a park or something, right?
Yeah. And how many of them are usually there?
Gets violent and starts like breaking.
How many of them are usually
there? Murdering people. Yeah, they're not running people over or doing stuff like that, but they are causing problems. They are disrupting free speech. They are making people spend more money on security. They are issuing threats. They are doing lots of things.
How many of them are
terroristic?
But how many of them are there?
I don't know.
Every time I see one of these things like huge Antifa uprising, the picture shows like 6 weirdos standing on a corner with masks.
And how many people are paid for these protests sometimes? I'm not sure about that either.
I'm sure on both sides. That's a common tactic.
I don't think that I've seen any right-wing people being paid to be at protests.
Not all the people
about that, but I have not.
The people that were beating on the doors during the George W. Bush election down in Florida, trying to pretend that they were citizens when they were actually being paid by the RNC to be down there. It's just a
George W. So a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a common old tactic that people do. It's nothing surprising, and it's why you got to take everything like that with a grain of salt. If you're not there talking to the people, well, then I don't give 2 shits what their opinions are because I don't know if it's manufactured or real. That's why I go down and talk to people.
Got anything there, Mr. Enough Ammo?
So I just randomly put a poll out in the chat of what the focus should be, because there seems to be some back and forth between Charlie Kirk.
Well, I didn't know what we were coming here for, so don't blame me.
General.
Okay, so
hold on, I'm fucking talking. God damn it!
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And so I just asked, what should the focus of the debate be? Should it be Charlie Kirk and his beliefs, or left wing versus right wing violence? The poll came out. Most people would rather have you two discuss left wing versus right wing violence than Charlie Kirk and or his beliefs.
Well, I thought we were coming here to talk about Charlie Kirk.
Well, again,
I'm just throwing. I just threw a poll. I didn't say y'all have to do it. I'm just telling you what the audience is saying right now.
Well, my opinion on left-wing versus right-wing violence is that a very small number of people on both sides are just complete dicks and will commit violence.
What I had heard from people and why
now younger people, I think, are more likely. So if there's more young people, then poor people are more likely. So those things are factors.
People specifically told me that you, in particular, had a chat where you said Trump was Hitler and that. Or no, Charlie Kirk was Hitler, and that he got what he deserved, and fuck around and find out, and something else.
Didn't say any of that.
Didn't really say that.
Never, there's people here now that saw my videos and saw what I've said in every live chat. Never said anything like that.
And that's what I'm glad to hear, because if you had said that shit, this would have been a different conversation.
I did say one thing. I did say is
I'm glad you didn't. Thank you.
One thing I did say is I said I think he himself was a religious fanatic. I think he was a little racist and all this stuff. And I found a lot of his ideas abhorrent. And some of the people who watch me regularly said, you should have saved that till a couple of days later. You shouldn't have said it right after he was dead. You should have just said, I didn't agree with everything he said. So I agreed with them. I said, yeah, you're right. I was wrong. I apologize for that. And then in all the live chats, I pretty much stuck to my guns. I don't support him. I'm not going to pretend like I did, because I think the things I disagreed with him on, like religion and politics, religion in schools, etc., anti-gay rights and stuff, I think those are a great danger to society, those opinions, especially the religion in schools and politics. It's a violation of the Constitution. I don't support it. So I'm not going to pretend like I love Charlie Kirk. I did agree with him on things like Islam and gun rights and everything, which is why I never fucking talked about him, because he wasn't coming after the stuff I personally was championing for. So I didn't even really hardly ever mention him. I'm getting
if people have a grasp on reality, right? Why are there so many people from the left that are viciously attacking his family, making memes, making T-shirts, bobbleheads?
Because a lot of them are internet. Well, there's two reasons. A lot of them are young people that are dumbasses, and it's also on the internet where people can say and do whatever they want. And there's always gross people saying things. And I'm sure a lot of them are people just trying to make other people look bad. A lot of them are bots and stuff. They're rage baiting. And I don't fall for that stuff online. That's why I don't watch Twitter, because it's just all rage bait.
And I don't think that Charlie Kirk was racist at all, by the way.
Oh, I think he was.
Because
he supported the white
specifically
replacement.
said a black baby is a blessing or miracle from God. I forget his exact quote.
Yeah, but that's something you would say when you're trying to avoid that question. Do you have racist?
I knew you were going to say that shit, dude.
Yeah. That sounds exactly like what you would say. Like when they asked him, do you support the violence from Israel on Palestine right now? What they're doing to Palestine, do you support that? And his answer was, I will never apologize for defending Israel's right to exist. That's what you say when you don't want to answer the question.
So, okay. So I'll just throw this out there. Since we do need to, I think that's at least a statement that requires some weight to it. What is the evidence that Charlie Kirk was racist, I guess, or the evidence that he was not?
I think he's racist because of some of the ideas he supported, like the Great Replacement theory. I think that's a very racist. In fact, everyone that believes it will admit that it's used.
Well, now, what do you mean by the Great Replacement theory? Because I've heard two different
people are being replaced by that white people are being replaced in society by brown and beige people, and that it's an organized attack on the white race, etc.
Okay, because there's two sides to that. There's the
I
side
welcome
that
when we all become beige. I wish I was beige.
So there's the side of it where people are, again, I know what you're talking about. That's why I was asking what exactly you mean by the Great Replacement theory. Is there's the half of it that this is happening, and the other half is that it's on purpose. And there are people that believe that it's happening and it's happening on purpose. And then there are a lot of people that are looking at it and going, well, yeah, it's happening.
No,
I don't think it's on purpose. No, hang on. Yeah. I'm one of those people. It's like, yeah, it's happening. I don't think it's some grand conspiracy, but statistically, we can prove it is actually happening.
But it's not a great replacement. It's just there's a melding of the races. that when you get into the theory that it's the great replacement, that they're deliberately replacing white people, that's when it gets racist.
I mean, there is a huge demographic change, I think, is what Never Enough Ammo is saying. Like,
yes,
be it
there are people, there are a lot of people.
Deliberate conspiracy, I think, is where he's drawing the line where it's not. But whether or not there are
the
a
reason
greater
that
number of people who are coming into the country who are from black and brown areas, that is 100% happening.
Here's why I bring that up, because I have seen interviews with Charlie Kirk where he has talked about that it's happening. And in that conversation that he was having with somebody, he said, yes, this is happening. No, this is not some conspiracy that
I don't remember
evil people.
Where's that link? Because
I saw again
when I saw
I didn't come prepared for this. I'm just a moderator. I'm just saying I've heard him mention that.
He was speaking to, I forget what group it was. It was the Proud Boys or someone else like that. And he clearly said that this is that a lot of people, what he said is a lot of people believe this, and I tend to support them.
Okay.
So that's the same thing as endorsing.
I don't know if it was the same thing I watched or not. And this is why I wanted to finish what I was saying. He said it is happening. It was not some great conspiracy to try and replace white people. Let me finish, dude.
No.
It was not some great conspiracy to try and replace white people, but it was intentional. This is what he said. It was intentional in the policies and actions of bringing in illegal immigrants and things like that. He was making in what I saw, he was making the point, not that it's intentional to replace white people, but that he said it was intentional on the part of the left to replace voters with people who would vote the way they wanted. They wanted to vote.
That right there.
Okay, well, again, I'm not making a claim on his meaning.
You can't say, "Oh, it's not deliberate to replace white people. It's deliberate to replace white voters." That's still the same thing.
Well, no, he said voters in general because he was talking about.
That's the same thing, and that still would make me think he's dog whistling to racists.
How is that the same thing, though?
That is not
because you just said that it is a deliberate attempt to replace white voters. That's what he's talking about.
No, he was addressing somebody in what I saw. And again, I don't know if this was the same thing you saw. No, he was addressing somebody who asked him about the great replacement theory. And he said, I do not believe this is some conspiracy to erase white people. I do, however, think that it is happening. We can see that statistically. And it is not about erasing white people. It is about and I'm paraphrasing here. It is about erasing votes that they disagree with by bringing in people that will vote for them.
I don't think
that's why they push.
Here's the quote: September 24th, 2023. The left is focused on bringing in voters they want and they like, and honestly diminishing and decreasing white demographics in America.
Yeah, see, that's right there.
Advocating for citizens forced. Wait, what is this?
Diminishing white America. That's all you needed to say right there. So that.
Well, you can't say white.
Well, if you say that they're actively trying to diminish white America, you're subscribing to the idea that it's a conspiracy to wipe out white people.
Diminishing,
exactly what he said.
Decreasing white demographics in America.
Yeah, that's decreasing white people in America. He agreed with that. So that makes.
But I've heard black. Hold on, because I've heard black people say the exact same thing in Chicago.
Well, and they're racist if they say that. So
how is making an observation racist?
Because he's endorsing the observation. He's endorsing it. He says that it exists.
But it does exist.
The left is bringing in people that would vote for them.
Statistically, it does
exist. They said the left is bringing in people that would diminish the white population.
Voters that they want and like, and honestly,
it doesn't matter why they're doing it, but they're replacing the white man because apparently the white man all votes Republican, which I don't think that's borne out. So it is a racist dog whistle. It's bullshit. If all you would have to say, if you want to say that in a way that's not racist,
you're prescribing an intention that you have no idea of knowing is there.
He said white,
yes, but black people in Chicago have said the same thing about immigrants. They're like they're trying to replace our vote. Also. They want us to have less political. They want black people to have less political power in our own cities.
It's really easy to win an argument.
How is that racist?
Here's the thing. Is there a whole group of
observing a
is
fact.
there a whole
If you
group
were-
of
if you
black
were saying-
organizations? Are there huge black organizations that are promoting this idea wholesale that black people are being replaced? No, there's
BLM.
not. No,
BLM in Chicago.
BLM. Well, BLM is not a national organization that's worth a shit. That's like saying you get your information from Antifa. But white people right now, a lot of white talking heads are promoting the idea that the white man is being replaced. The white man's power is being reduced. Charlie Kirk supported that idea, endorsed that idea, said he agreed with that idea. That is racist.
Hold on. I have to say something here because you're talking about factual statistics. You can agree with them. That doesn't make you racist.
No,
like I'm not saying. Listen.
You're missing the whole point.
I'm not saying he wasn't racist.
No,
I'm just saying there's no proof he was racist either.
Because if you come out and say they're doing this and decreasing white society,
that's fact. But that's a fact. That's not a racist
fact. It's not a fact. Period. That there's any fucking connection between a conspiracy to replace white people. That's just the natural order of things. He did say that. He fucking said that. He said it in the quote he read, and he said it in the interview I saw. He said that that's a thing. They're diminishing white society and taking away white people's powers. To just say that shit shows that you're willing to cater to the racists.
Okay, but is that not true?
No, it's not true. There's no evidence that it's a conspiracy. It's just natural. In almost all of the world, that's been happening. Races are interbreeding. You don't have solid this or solid that anymore. Everybody's working their way to be beige. That's been happening for generations. It's not some new modern conspiracy.
In the United States, it was the 1963 or something like that. We started changing how the demographics of immigration, like legal immigration into this country worked. And to the point now where, yes, the demographics have changed. It used to be what, like 85% or 80% white, 15% black, and 5% whatever else. And now it's like it's getting to the point where, you know, I mean, the demographics have changed. It's an observation.
Mildly. We're still vast majority white.
In certain areas, yeah.
Everywhere in the country, we're still by far the largest group.
With Arabic writing on the side, because there's so many fucking Arabs there. That
Arabics aren't going to be the next big group. It's Hispanics are going to be the next big group.
Well, I'm just saying, like, this country is not the same demographics.
But do you think America shouldn't? Our demographics shouldn't change? We should have just stayed like 95% white?
I mean, I would have been, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I can just say I don't give a shit. This is why I married a Hispanic woman and had half Hispanic.
Then you don't have you're not worth anything.
But I can call out a fucking factual statistic. It is true. I just don't see how acknowledging that and saying
you hate Latinas now because you're married to one.
No, I love them. Always love them.
Say that now.
I just don't say how. I don't see how saying.
You don't see how saying I think there's a conspiracy to reduce white people in this country or white power in this country, white demographics. You don't think saying it like that is a dog whistle to racists?
Nope, I don't.
I don't. I mean, because it's factually happening. Again, I don't care that it's happening.
If you just said the demographics in this country are changing because of immigration, etc., things like that, then that's not racist. When you start using terms like the Great Replacement Theory and white demographics and white power, the white man's power, that's dog whistling to racist. None of that stuff is necessary to make your point.
How many people did Joe Biden legally let into the country in 4 years? Was it like 20 million, 10 million, something like that?
I don't know. I don't pay real
well, the numbers are between 10 and 20, depending on who you listen to. Some people say 10.
Immigration wasn't at its highest under Biden. Illegal immigration wasn't at its highest under Biden.
Yeah, I think it was the highest under Biden because they let more people into the country than they did. How many years was Ellis Island? I think it was like 30 years or 50 years or something like that. They let people into Ellis Island and they would have them quarantine on the island before they're allowed to come in and not do all the paperwork and stuff. They let more people in under Biden on 4 years than they did 30 years or whatever it was of Ellis Island.
I'm trying to find the information from. When was Biden president?
2021 to 2024.
The highest level of illegal immigration was in 2006. Who was president then?
Bush.
So that was under Bush.
But remember, this was also at the time when the Republicans wanted illegal immigration at the time, before they had swapped platforms with the Democrats.
When was Biden president again?
21 to 24.
Okay. In 21, it was actually at its lowest, 10.2. 2022, it was at 10.5. And then
wait, what year it was at its lowest?
The year was at its lowest. I think it's,
you said it was. Yeah, well, that was because of COVID, but
yeah, probably. But I think I have COVID now. I'm choking. But the highest,
don't smoke weed, you die over there, man.
That was like 2006 was the highest. So I guess under Bush, as you say.
Bush, yeah. Which again makes sense. We've talked about this before. The Republicans used to be the party of illegal immigration and amnesty. So
yeah, free labor or cheap labor.
Yeah.
So according to this, there was 10.8 million people that were let into the country by Biden.
Now is that illegal or illegal?
Were another 3.3. Then getaways were another 2. So that'd be
how's a getaway is
15 million
getaway separate as
excuse me?
How's getaway a separate? Because that means that's someone you've caught.
I'm reading what it says.
Are part of the, where are you reading?
That's an estimate. I think the getaways are an estimate.
Where are you reading it from?
Catch.
Where are you reading it? Where are you reading it from?
I asked Grok.
Oh, well, go look at the national immigration statistics and then quote those.
Well, according to Grok, anyway, there's 15 million people approximately that were let into the country under Joe Biden, and from
under 4 years.
Also, according to Grok, from 1892 to 1954. So, how many years is that? 60 years, 58 years. There were 12 million people who came into the country from Ellis Island, which, if you look at historically what happened to hold on. What happened with those 12 million people that came into this country completely changed this country in the way that it works, right? Those 12 million people changed the demographics. Like, that was my grandparents who came in, my great-grandparents who came in, were part of that 12 million. And now we've just let in 15 million in an even shorter period of time.
How many of those stay and how many are migrant?
According to the Trump administration, there have been 2 million people that have either self-deported or been deported, and since Biden took since Trump took office.
But we don't know how many people just come up here temporarily, work, and then go back, or come up.
And we also don't know how many people were here before Biden took office. There's estimates that there was already 10 to 20 million people here. So now you're looking at 30 million people in this country that are here. Like, how many, dude? How many is the
percentage of Hispanics now in this country?
I'm sorry?
What's the percentage of Hispanics now in this country from the last census compared to 15 years ago, 10 years ago?
Hold on, I'll look it up.
That would be an interesting number to look at. I quit coughing. And don't quote Crowder or anybody. Look it up.
I'm just, using Grok. Okay, so 2023, there was 19.5% Hispanic, 65.3 million people of the 335 million people who live here. 2003, so 20 years ago, it was 13.7% of the population, so it's a change of almost 6%. 40 million people, 39.9 out of 290 million people. So there's a difference of 25 million people in 20 years. Over a million a
year. What was the 2 years of these statistics?
2003, 2023.
So in 20 years, it went up from, and in 2003, we were having more people coming in now than we do now. So the population is, how much of that population comes from increased births of the people here, and how much of it comes from immigration? Because, if people came in 20 years ago, well, there's probably another generation, maybe even 2 now, of those same families. So I'm not seeing a huge increase of population there that would account for that. And we know Hispanics are having babies faster than Americans. That was a problem you said you had. So I'm not seeing a huge number in the percentage of Hispanics that would not account for, things like just population growth, having more babies, having more families that have babies, a couple new generations since then.
So according to this, of the 25 million, 15 is natural. The other 10 would be from unauthorized or illegal.
Okay, real quick. What's the point?
We were just talking about whether the actual white population is
I
being
mean,
diluted at any
the statistical facts are that.
Don't tell us what we can talk about.
Yeah, the statistical facts are that the white population in the country has gone down. Now, whether you care about that because you're a racist or not, that's up for fucking debate. And that's where this started, is trying to determine whether or not Charlie Kirk was racist for saying that shit, or at the very least catering to racists for bringing that up. But the fact of the matter is, it is true. I mean, in the last 25 years,
it's true that ethnic races are intermingling. That's been true for hundreds of years, actually, now, not just 10 or 20. It's been happening in Europe. It's been happening in other places that were predominantly white up until, because it used to be, if you were a white country, you didn't let people in that weren't white. Now they do. And that's been happening for, generations now, that there's been intermingling. And that's also the case in America since the 60s. It started in the 60s at a really high rate. It didn't just happen recently as part of some grand scheme to change the white voter and take power away from the white man. And portraying it like that is dishonest, and it's a dog whistle to racists.
How's it working out for England right now?
Let me just ask. Let me ask
people that are actual citizens, or just mass immigration from shithole countries.
Let me ask this question. Let me ask this question. I'll pretend like it's my chat for a second. All right.
Who the fuck is talking?
So
is that the bald guy talking?
Is there any validity? And I'm not talking about from a racial perspective whatsoever, because I don't give a shit about that at all. Is there any validity to the idea, okay, when we look and see everything going on in the country, okay, that much like what the Republicans did with amnesty and illegal immigration and all the things, and the ways in which they encouraged it because of the ways in which it benefited their party, okay, is there any conversation to be had that, let's be honest here, like, yeah, there's probably at least part of a reason why now the left, the Democrats, want to do the same thing, potentially because it gets them more votes. Again, taking race out of it completely, I do not think that is a big leap to make, because statistically we know that people that immigrate here, I believe the rate is 3-1, have a 3-1 chance of voting Democrat as opposed to voting Republican, people that immigrate here both legally and illegally, that, get here illegally, and then people that overstay their visas and things like that, that eventually find a way to actually vote, whether they eventually become a citizen or through like DACA and stuff, their children will eventually vote and have a 3-1 chance of eventually voting Democrat. Is there anything conspiratorial, again, taking race out of it completely and not looking at it from racial perspective at all, of them just looking at statistics and saying, yeah, it would make sense that the left absolutely would be like, yeah, let's just bring as many fucking people in, because just through attrition, they're going to get more votes. And it is going to help empower the Democrat Party, because they do. I mean, people that come here
make that argument, but
yes,
does it hold water when you start looking at how many Hispanics come in under George W. Bush, how many Hispanics came in under Trump his first term, and all this other stuff? When the Democrats aren't in power, it doesn't seem to change how many Hispanics come in.
I think part of,
and in fact, the biggest immigration, fastest growing demographics in our country, it's not even Hispanics, it's Indian people, then Chinese people, then Filipinos, and then Vietnam, and then Koreans, and then Hispanics. So I don't know if when you start looking at all the numbers, I mean, it's a great little theory and it's debatable, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at all the numbers. Because like I said,
the part of
it
the
also
argument
is not, it's also not true, because I'm looking at the census data here.
That's what I was just looking at. U.S. Census,
and
fastest growing.
Say, and the years that I have are from 2000 to 2020. I don't have anything past.
This is 2022 to 2023.
Okay, so from 2000 to 2020, the Hispanic population in the country. If we'll talk about that one.
You're talking number, just the individual number of people. The fastest percentage-wise growing are Chinese, Indian, Filipino, Vietnamese, and Korean. Okay. Meaning the people,
I wasn't talking or anything. It's cool.
Hispanic population isn't growing at any substantially faster rate.
Know how I feel.
These ones are.
So the Hispanic population, at least according to the people that are actually counted on the census. Now, that's not going to include people that are illegal, that aren't getting counted or whatever. I have no idea about that. We're leaving that off the equation altogether. And that goes for all races because people from all over the world come here illegally. Okay. The Hispanic population, according to the census, in 20 years, went from 32 million to roughly 64 million. You said Pacific Islanders, the Pacific Islanders, in that same period of time went from 10 million to 20 million. So both roughly doubled. Okay. Then it gets into like non-Hispanic other. I don't know what the fuck that is, but basically everything roughly in that period of time doubled. It's all essentially pretty fucking even.
So it doesn't show any
coming here. So I'm not putting that out there to make a fucking statement on either side of this argument. That's just the fact is roughly immigration and people we count in the census of all groups has roughly doubled except for the white and the black population.
Well, there's not a lot of white.
Those are the only two that haven't doubled. The black population went up marginally, like probably less than 5%. White population actually went down by about 1%.
Well, you also got to look at
which goes to show you, like I say, just looking at the number, that shows you if there's some concentrated effort to bring in more Hispanics, well, then why aren't they growing at a faster rate than the others? And why right now are the fastest growing? Like I'm looking at it right now on the U.S. Census page. The fastest growing groups, ancestral groups, are Chinese, Indian, Filipino, Vietnamese. So if it's a concentrated,
my argument was not that it is Hispanic. My argument is that Democrats would bring immigrants here intentionally by whatever means they could, because statistically immigrants have a much higher likelihood of voting Democrat. It is simply a way to gather as many votes. And I don't think the Democrats care where the fuck they come from, as long as they vote for them.
Well,
I don't think the Democrats care whether white people vote for them, immigrants, black people. They just want as many fucking people voting for them.
Okay, but if that's your theory, then why don't numbers go down under Republican presidents?
What numbers?
The immigration numbers.
Well, the immigration
go down under Trump's first term. They were on their way up in his first term. So
every time we talk about immigration,
and a lot of people on the right, heavily criticized him because he was for all the H-1B visas and all the other things, and he was still bringing people in.
I don't think H-1Bs are the actual problem as far as.
No, I'm just saying. I'm using that as an example to say that it was a problem under Trump's first term, which was something that a lot of people, even on the right, called out about that, saying you're bringing people in to replace. At the time, they were talking about jobs. Okay. So that was a problem. Now, the reason why it hasn't gone down, quote unquote, when a Republican was president was because essentially, as we've just discussed, up until around the early 2010s, the Republicans were completely on board with this because it meant cheap labor for the businesses that donated to their campaigns and paid them money. It wasn't until the party switched. And since the party has switched, we had Obama for 8 years and Biden for 4 years and one term of Trump.
Wasn't it Biden or wasn't it Obama who actually had the lowest numbers of immigration?
In his first term, yes.
Yes.
Well, no, not the lowest numbers. He had lower numbers.
Well, that used to be a Democrat talking point. I remember when Bill Clinton ran in '94 or whatever the fuck that was. '92.
It wasn't when Obama came in.
A big talking point of him running was getting immigration under control, going after businesses who were hiring illegals and, stemming the flow of illegals into this country. And Democrats at that time were like, yay, that's what we want, because that helps us.
It was still a big talking point in the 2008 election because Obama and Hillary Clinton both had entire fucking debates about that during the primaries.
And I think the
It
bigger
was
problem
it
with
was
the
a
whole
big point
replacement
at
theory
that
thing,
particular time in the Democrat Party. It was not in the Republican Party.
So basically you're saying the theory of Democrats bringing people in intentionally to depower the white man is pretty much only a thing under Biden.
No.
So I think the point that everyone's missing here is not only the people being brought in, but the people not having kids here and why. And a lot of people in this country were told for, saving the planet, or because, you got to have your career, girl, and so on and so on. A lot of people aren't having kids. And a lot of people, I think there might be some like environmental toxin type thing going on too, because it seems like it's all first world countries around the world, not just us. It's Japan, it's all of these first world countries dealing with the same thing with birth rates going down. So I don't know exactly what's causing it, but there's certainly it has a leg in the messaging that's going to kids and coming out.
I don't think it's because of infertility. I think it's just because modern day people are decided that they're more than just baby factories.
Well, look at testosterone rates in men, right? Like the average 18-year-old has the testosterone rate of like an 80-year-old from 1985 or something. I don't know what the actual numbers are.
One, that's misrepresented and not completely true. And a lot of that studies by testosterone replacement groups that want to sell you testosterone. The real studies, nothing like that. And two, it's actually kind of normal. It's just like how the degradation of the Y chromosome. Once a species exists long enough, the Y chromosome is going to stop being the chromosome that carries all the male genetics. It's going to evolve into something else. You'll be like XG instead of XY. That's normal. It's happened you see that in the historic record of other animals, other apes, and it'll be the same thing with us. Eventually, the Y chromosome will degrade. It'll be replaced by something else. And you can read books on this, studies on this, and they'll explain to you how it actually works. But it's all a big something about nothing.
I have one more controversial issue.
Heaven forbid.
Trans and guns. What is your view on So it was the administration, the Trump administration is talking about using the part on the 4473 that says something to the effect of, have you ever been mentally adjudicated as unfit, to apply to people who have gender dysphoria, and not allowing them to buy guns, basically.
No, I don't agree with alienating any group of people from buying firearms that haven't been convicted of a crime or been involuntarily committed. And even the American Medical Association, American Psychological Association, all the big groups don't consider transgender to be a disabling mental illness.
Would you say that there's an uptick of transgender violent attacks recently?
Of transgender people attacking others?
Yes.
Probably, because there's a lot more people who claim to be transgender.
Right. And I think that that's part of it, but I think that also it's part of the messaging that's been going out, especially when it comes to trans people, that they're under attack, and that, these are the people that are trying to end your lifestyle, and they would come and put you in whatever gulag thing and force you to detransition or whatever it is what they're being told, or what
they don't even have to be told that. Here's the thing. True transgender people don't need to be told that. They live their life every day being told that they're an abomination, that they're disgusting, that religion, God hates them, and everybody else hates them and beats them up in bathrooms and all that stuff. They see that every day. They don't need to be told that they're discriminated against. And as far as there being more of them nowadays, I find that offensive, because the number of true transgender people hasn't gone up. What's gone up is the number of people who want to co-opt their struggles and want to be different and want to be special, because they can't think of any other way they can be different or special. So what you got is a bunch of people claiming to be transgender, sometimes just so they can go from being, number 178th in men's gymnastics or track and field to becoming number 1 in women's track and field. And I think a lot of those people, one of my own conspiracy theories, I think a lot of those people are paid to do that, to make transgender people look bad. In fact, that's a common thing in the transgender community. They think that. But I think a lot of people are co-opting the trials and tribulations of actual transgender people because it's trendy. I don't think there's any more true transgender people now than there was 20 years ago. It's just now it's the thing.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of people that are transgender now that wouldn't have been 20 years ago because it is the thing, because there is a push.
Well, they're not true transgender, though. They're just playing the role.
Tell them that.
They're playing the role. Well, I would tell them that. I would tell them that right to their face. If you're not,
they would hate you just like they hated Charlie Kirk.
They can hate me if they want.
They would celebrate when you died just like they celebrated.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of people celebrate when I die. I don't care. I'm not going to change my opinion for them. I think the vast majority of it, and here's the thing. I worked with at-risk youth a lot of my career. When I worked as a psychologist, that was my main center of professional, discipline. And I would say that starting in like the early 2000s, late 1990s, early 2000s, the number of my clients that started presenting as transgender skyrocketed because it was becoming popular. It was the very beginning of it. And I would say 50% of my clients claimed to be transgender. After they'd been a client for a couple of years, they had gone from being 16 to 19 and they were aging out of the system. And I had to do an interview with them, like an exit interview and stuff like that. I would say that number dropped to about 15% of them were now claiming to be transgender. And then when you check in with them even later in life, like 25 years old, they've settled themselves. None of them were transgender anymore. And that's what I found across the board. It's because they were claiming to be transgender because it was trendy. It made them feel special. It got them special treatment in some ways. And when it came down to they matured out of it, became adults, almost none of them were. The number of people that are actually truly transgender doesn't even make 1%, not even close to 1%. So first off, I think worrying about transgender stuff is ridiculous because it's such a small number of people.
Because Charlie Kirk basically said about trans people that if you're an adult, you can make adult choices and you can do whatever you want. Stay away from the fucking kids. Don't give them all of these castrating chemicals and other things that you give to kids to change their bodies. Yeah, and there was a conversation that he had specifically with an adult transgender person that he would hope that they would get exactly like you were talking about, some help from a professional or a group of professionals who could help them become comfortable in their own body eventually. And then that would be better than putting chemicals in their body.
Would do that on their own.
What's that?
Most of them would do that on their own, period. They just, if left to like say, hey, when you're 18, you can do what you want. Most of them by the time they're 18 wouldn't want anything like that. They would grow out of that. And also, you can't get it done at 18, really, not in this country. To maintain your license, like Toby Meltzer, who was one of the top transgender surgeons in the country, was a personal friend of our family. And to maintain your license, you had to make sure someone had mental health therapy for a year to 2 years. You had to make sure they would have been living as a woman for at least a year. He said 5 years before he would do surgery. So that was after they were adult age. So you couldn't even begin to start the process until you were like 25, after you went through those things first. So you're not getting surgeries in this country at 17, 18, 16 years old. It's not happening.
It does, but only if you have a show on A&E.
Well, only if also you fake it or you have actually a gender issue, a physical gender issue, where they're doing.
What about that jazz person that had a fucking show?
All fucking fake. All that shit's fake.
According to Grok again, there have been between 2018 and 2021 some 108 people who were under the age of 18 that got gender affirming surgeries, most of which were top chest surgeries, but not all. And 108 is not zero.
Under the age of 18, you're saying?
Yeah.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I don't
know what Gronk is, but look at the American Medical Association. See what they say. I don't know what is Gronk.
It's AI.
Yeah, I'm not listening to an AI. They're only as smart as the people who program them. And they just read anything and they don't verify whether it's true or not. Now, I will say that there are people under the age that do get surgeries. If someone is born with, mutilated genitalia or anything like that, they can have the surgery at a young age, even like infants. There are infants that go from being a boy girl to just being a girl. It doesn't usually go the other way because those usually aren't successful surgeries. If you've ever seen a female to male, that even if they get the bottom surgery, it's not convincing, let's say. So it's usually males going to females. Like if a child is born and they have male and female genitalia, or the genitalia is mutated and non-specific, they're usually going to become a girl. Sometimes when those people become a girl, they have to have other surgeries later. They have to have top surgery to give them breasts because they don't end up with breasts. And that could be included in your little statistic there. But just getting a gender reassignment under the age of 18, unless there's a medical reason for it, you'd lose your license for doing it.
I 100% have heard cases of it. I mean,
I've heard lots of things.
If you know who that is, Jazz Jennings is someone who got.
It's all bullshit.
It was documented on a TV show that they were on.
Like on a reality TV show.
I mean, they got the surgeries. I don't know.
I doubt they did. And if they did, they weren't under the age of 18, unless they had like I said, a non-conforming medical condition.
They did not.
I never saw their genitalia. Did you see their genitalia?
I did not.
Yeah, so I can't say that either. And I can't even prove they did it because it's a reality show.
Well, I mean, look, nobody's seen their genitalia, but
I've seen my genitalia.
Nobody's seen these people's genitalia, so you cannot make a determining factor one way or another. You can't just say it didn't happen, and you can't say it did happen.
I don't believe it. I can say that.
Yeah.
They showed the episode where the fake pussy literally fell out.
I didn't see the show. Let me just say that.
All right.
So they might have showed their genitalia. I never saw the show.
I went ahead and posted the who won the debate. We'll see how that goes. We are going to go ahead and get to the super chats that came in for questions and or comments. What, Honda?
Nothing. I was just raising my hand because I won the debate. Haha.
Okay. Nominal Snowman said, question for EHonda. Why, just why, stop it?
Stop what?
You know what you did.
Claiming that there's a mass hysteria because there is? Yeah.
Maybe. Dino says, Yankee is the embodiment of what's wrong with the left. I disagree with your opinion. Therefore, it's hateful. All right.
Where did we say that?
I don't know. And if y'all would like to address these comments, please feel free.
What happened to the nominal snowman when they just got clicked through?
That one there. Well, I'm going through them, but then you started to question Dino's. So I'm going back to Dino's. Do you have an opinion on this, Yankee? It is addressed towards you.
I don't care what he has to say. I'm not going to change my opinions for him.
Okay.
I don't know who that is, but I know it's your crowd, which isn't I'm not popular with your crowd. If we did,
some of these are on your channel. Some of these super chats are on your channel.
How are you getting super chats from my channel?
Because we're streaming from my StreamYard, which means I can see the super chats and the comments and everything from your channel.
Stop looking at my channel.
Yeah, well.
I should have been live streaming too. Damn it.
So, Nominal Snowman says, question for the panel. What can you clowns do to make me billions, or better yet, millions? Because that's better. I don't know.
If I knew, I'd be doing it.
Just find a way to charge everybody in the world $1.
That would do it. Dino says, now I'm the educated trope.
What?
Now the I'm educated trope?
Do you get that one?
I don't know who that was addressed to. You really need to learn how to tailor your super chats so we know who you're talking to and what exactly you're referencing.
What's even worse?
Just throwing it out there.
What's even worse is 40 minutes after you say something, somebody will come up and say something like, "Did you mean that?" And you're like, "Did I fucking mean what? I've said 100 things."
Yeah. Motor Racer Chris says, "This is the worst threesome I've ever seen." I bet it's not the worst. I feel like you've seen some
ever been in.
Yeah. Dino says, Yankee, you are hypnotized on the fact you think the P320 is fine.
I think it works the way it's supposed to. I wouldn't recommend it for carry.
He also says, where did 4 million plus votes go? This was when you guys were talking about the 2020 election.
Well, I think what he's talking about.
I got a better question. Where did the 20 million votes for Biden go?
What he's talking about there is the discrepancy in Democrat votes from other years leading up to and since the 2020 election. There were 4 million extra votes in the 2020 election that are kind of anomalous, and the explanation is
really anomalous.
So many mail-in votes that a whole bunch of people voted that normally wouldn't.
Yeah,
and that
look at the
since
18
then
to
they
25
haven't.
demographic.
But that is a question.
No. That's wrong. What he's talking about is the 4 million votes that were missing from the 2016 election to the 2020 election.
That's exactly what I just said.
That's what he said.
No, that's not what you fucking said.
That is exactly what I just said.
He just said it reversed. He said that there was 4 million more in that election than there was in this election.
Yeah.
You said in previous elections, as if it was talking about the 4 million that Hillary Clinton got and lost with versus those missing 4 million that Biden won with.
I guess I didn't say that.
So Biden
don't get that.
That's what it is. All right. Anyway, Dino says, Yankee, I know you watch the news because you went to the Chaz chop, whatever, proved the media wrong about it not being violent and got attacked.
I didn't get attacked. Someone slapped the phone out of my hand and then they ran away afterwards. But I didn't get a scratch on me. I was live streaming again 5 minutes later.
I think his point was that if you don't watch the news, how did you know to go there to?
Well, fucking everybody was talking about it online, so I went.
Okay, I'm just reading into what he said.
Remember when we were all talking about it, and I just went up there. I said, "I'll go up see what it is." And I went twice. The first time I went is a fucking street party. It was fun. It was a lot of stuff going on. They were selling food. There were literally thousands of people there. And then I went back after it had died out because, you know, normal people got to go back to work. So I went back again to see what it was like afterwards. And then I told everyone, now it's a fucking shithole because, like always happens in these situations, even if you start off with the best intentions, eventually everybody that's halfway decent has to go home. And all you got hanging out is the rats. And that was what it was. It was just rats at that point.
Okay. Dino also says, you smoke weed, you have paranoia, nice ad hominem.
It wasn't an ad hominem, it was a concern. That's not what ad hominem means. I was directly expressing the fact that he smoked a lot of marijuana, and that does clinically come with paranoia. So how is that ad hominem?
I mean, you were saying that I was paranoid because of the beliefs that I have being...
No, I said that you smoked a lot of marijuana, and I think that might be making you paranoid. That's purely based in science, and that's not what ad hominem means.
Well, an ad hominem attack is essentially attacking a person instead of their argument.
Yeah, and I wasn't attacking. I was just saying that you're making points that seem paranoid, and you smoke a lot of marijuana. That can actually clinically prove that, you know, be a link to paranoia. So it's not ad hominem.
Okay.
It's
Pigar says
to the topic.
Pigar says, ask Yankee about the Covington kids.
What are the Covington?
I don't know what he wants. Well, those are the Covington kids are the ones that
the Native American guy with a drum.
The Native American guy that got in the kid's face when they were on a school trip, and then the media immediately turned it into the kid being.
Oh yeah, they demonized that poor kid.
Yeah.
Although I still said later that it was totally wrong what we thought at first, that it was a misportrayal, but I still supported smacking that kid in the face because don't get in the face of your elders. Even though he didn't get in his face, I was like, walk away, get away from him.
Didn't he get some huge lawsuit out of that?
He got a big settlement out. I think it was NBC or something, or CNN.
And he deserved it because he got nationally fucking they roasted by the media for nothing. So
I still don't like him because he's a smarmy rich kid, but he wasn't wrong. So
Nino says Crowder posts his sources unlike Yankee.
But then why
when
did
it comes to that Crowder thing that debunked the I actually do believe that, because I think with something like that that's so obviously actionable, if they were incorrect or lying, they would do their due diligence because they have been sued before, and I'm sure that they don't want to be sued again.
What thing? What topic were we talking about?
When we were talking about the statistics that show that there are more left-wing, or there's more right-wing violence than left-wing violence, according to this poll or that poll.
You can get around that easy. You can just say, hey, this person said this, or I'm quoting this source, and then you're relieved of liability.
Well, my point was that it didn't really match what we're observing. And then if you look into it, there's a lot of evidence that shows a bias in the way that they counted those numbers. So you can't trust what they fucking say.
Well, it also, just for shiggles, I'll throw this out there. A lot of the polls they're not polls, a lot of the studies and statistics that go into right versus left-wing violence, where they get large portions of their information, is from the prison system. So that is collected in the data for right-wing violence, right? And when
you're saying if it was racist or something, they just count that automatically as right wing.
Yeah. So violence, because I was looking up a poll, and it was like, you know, they were like, it was one of the polls from the ADL, right, where they referenced the other statistics and the other polls that had been done, and the ADL was saying, oh, right wing extremism is higher because they commit the majority of violence. And then when you actually like looked through their numbers, like half of the violent incidents that they recorded were all in prison, right? And then they said, well, it was still, you know, right wing violence. And then when you looked at the incidents, when it would like break it down, and you actually got the numbers of the ones that actually happened in prison that they were attributing to right-wing violence, technically they classified it as right-wing violence whenever they couldn't classify it as anything else. So in other words, they would have it broken down by all the different like white supremacist fucking prison gangs, and if somebody didn't identify as any of those or was unknown, they would still classify it under the right-wing column instead of the left-wing column. And that's where the majority on these statistics and studies that say there's more right-wing extremist violence than left-wing extremist violence, they're getting their statistics, at least half their statistics, from prison violence.
The ones I've seen haven't done that, but I told you, even the ones I've seen are always skewed. Yeah. Because they don't take other things into account. They try to base it on political ideology, and they don't take into account, do you live in a poor area? Are you well off? Do you live in a high density city, or do you live in a suburb? All those things have a much bigger effect on whether you're likely to be violent than whether you vote Republican or Democrat.
And the other thing that they do is they group people into right-leaning who aren't necessarily right-leaning. For instance, like people who are anarchists, right? They consider anyone who's an anarchist and commits violence someone on the right who committed violence. But there's plenty of people who would consider themselves or otherwise left-leaning who also consider themselves anarchists, but since they're considered an anarchist, they're considered right-leaning according to these polls and things.
And the ADL poll does list anarchists as right-wing.
Yeah, there's a couple other examples too, but that was.
I always considered anarchists as more left than right in my.
Well, not a good.
Yeah, polls consider anarchists. They file them under the right wing column, even though they're not. They file them under the right wing column, and like the poll that I was looking at, the ADL poll, 31% of the quote unquote radical violence that they attribute to the right wing, 31% is listed in their own poll as other, unknown, or unaffiliated.
Which poll is this one?
This is the ADL poll.
What's
Anti-Defamation League?
Oh, the Anti-Defamation League. You can't take anything they say.
Yeah. Well, now that being said, they didn't do this poll. They got their information. They gathered their information from
I'm sure they
FBI, crime, NIH statistics, stuff like that. They didn't actually go out and do this. They all they did was gather numbers.
I'm sure they cherry picked a lot of numbers that were very important and ignored the ones that weren't.
I'm sure they did. So,
but like I said, I don't think whether someone votes Republican or Democrat is going to have a lick of difference on whether they're a violent person or not.
Well, especially not when they're in prison.
Yeah, I think it's going to do more to where they, you know, whether they were brought up in a two-parent household, that's going to have a far more effect on whether they're likely to commit a violent crime. And we're not saying murders. Now, a lot of people thought the other night when we were saying violent crime, we mean murders. There's lots of violent crimes that are well below murder.
if millions
murder
is believe that Donald Trump is
in
Hitler, then 100% there is going to be more violent left-wing crime than right-wing, because there's no messaging from the right saying, "Oh, the Biden administration is actually Hitler." Everybody, didn't you know?
Wait,
what do you do when you're dealing with Hitler?
Well, people talk shitty about. They don't want to say Hitler, but I will say they probably had more restraint there. But they talk pretty shitty about Biden.
I'd never heard them say
Biden
Hitler
was a plant and a communist, and he was trying to overthrow the Constitution and all this stuff. You heard all that.
I never heard. Okay. I will say now that was said about the left-wing progressives in the Democrat Party. That was never said about Biden. Nobody said anything about Biden other than he's fucking not there and he's not making any goddamn decisions. He's a goddamn puppet.
President
That's what people were saying about Biden.
That he had dementia, which is, I don't know if he had dementia. Like I told people, from a professional standpoint, I did not see any outward signs of true dementia, but I saw lots of outward signs of just age-related decline. He wasn't capable of doing his job.
No.
Well, according to the Democrats, he was spry, and but behind closed doors, he's just so great. You guys don't know. I mean, I know he was bad in that interview.
I don't know of any reasonable people that would say that.
Behind closed doors, everybody, believe me, he's as sharp as you've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm sure there were people say that. As soon as he gets
out of office, they're writing books about how much he was fucking degraded.
And there are people who think Trump is all together too, but people that are reasonable, I don't think we buy into this kind of bullshit.
All right, let's keep going. Dino says Yankee is a furry. Change my mind.
You'd have to be having sex, wouldn't you? Because aren't the furries the one that have sex?
I think it's a sexual thing, isn't it?
I think there's two different groups. There's furries and something else. What's the other one? Plushies or something?
I don't know.
But if it's
I don't know. Maybe there's two groups of furries. Is like furries for sex, and then furries just because people like dressing like animals or something.
Well, see, I could probably be part of the second one, maybe if I had that interest, but I don't. But now you'd have to have sex to be part of the main one.
All right. Library Garrett says NEA sitting in majestic silence. Yeah, I sat in silence most of this. That was my job, was just to sit here and moderate. So, Dino says, Yankee, you don't have a bad temper. You're an ally.
I am an ally to a lot of things. First Amendment, Second Amendment, lots of things. That's why I go to people when I see the gun community demonizing people protesting because they disagree with them. I'm like, well, when it comes time for us to do that, are you expecting everybody to turn on us too? Or do you want to promote the idea that you should listen to what people have to say?
I did that. And I don't know how many people remember this. Yankee, I think you were there. I don't remember. When I brought some people from the John Brown Gun Club onto my show.
I think I missed that one.
Did you miss that one?
I saw the one about the racist, but I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, I was trying to, because these were left wingers, but they were into guns, and I tried to give them a chance to, find some common ground. It didn't happen.
Yeah,
but I tried.
I don't remember.
Well, I don't have to find common ground with someone.
This was a long time ago.
If someone's protesting against the government or what they think is wrong, I don't have to have any common ground with them. But I will in 100% support their First Amendment right to do what they're doing.
The problem in that chat was I tried to keep the conversation on what we have in common with gun rights and the Second Amendment, and they kept like fucking shooting off to like fucking socialism and fucking communism and shit and wanting to argue and like getting real fucking radical and talking about revolution, and I was just like, dude, I'm trying, bro. Like, I'm fucking trying.
Well, we could have said we all agree that there might be a revolution someday, and we should all be ready for it.
I was trying, and I failed. I was trying to be like, hey, we should come together and talk about the things we agree with and treat each other like fucking people. And that's what I wanted to show my audience, that, hey, these people have different political beliefs than you, but they have this one same thing. But the people I brought on the show, not my audience, the people I brought on the show couldn't shut the fuck up about communism and starting a fucking communist revolution. And I was like,
alt-right people on, and you were like, hey, alt-right people, don't be crazy. Let's have a conversation and see what we have in common. And then
they just fucking went extremely racist for 2 hours.
90% of the time. That's going to be the case 90% of the time. Like when I go down and talk to people down in Portland, or when I went up to the CHOP, I don't expect to change anybody's mind. I don't expect to even find common ground with them. But the very fact that I can promote the idea that if we're right, if we're the ones that are doing things the right way, we should support people's First Amendment right. We should support people's First Amendment right, their 14th Amendment right, their Fifth Amendment right, all these things. We should support all of it. And if we don't, if we're willing to throw that out the window just because we can't find some common ground with them, well, then we don't really believe what we're saying.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And just because you fail to find common ground with them, or I fail to find common ground with them, that doesn't mean we're wrong. That means they're wrong. So it looks worse on them than it does us. We're doing the right thing. And as talking about the communism thing, one of the funny things about that video that people like to quote, but no one seems to watch because they don't really pay attention to it, is after that one guy slapped the phone out of my hand and I was threatening to kick his ass, another guy stepped in who said he was security. And he said, well, how do we know you're not a cop or something like that? Because you got this pin on your hat. And I'm like, well, you got a fucking red star on your vest. How do I know you're not a fucking communist? And he goes, but I am a communist. And I'm like, well, that's awful, or something like that, because I didn't know what to say at that point, because I have not been confronted with people that say I'm a communist in a proud way. But I was like, yeah, I could assume you're a fucking communist because of that red star. And he's like, I am a communist. And that I came back with something like, well, that's bad, or something, really good comeback there.
Officer Tater Hater says, watch this show named 2000 Mules. I have watched that. That was several years ago. I don't remember any details enough to have a conversation about it.
It made a compelling argument that there were a small number of people who made an inordinate amount of trips to the ballot drop-off locations. And their inference was that these people were going around and collecting ballots and then going to the place to drop them off. And so these 200 people in particular were responsible for some inordinate amount of ballots that got turned in. And this was the proof. That was the cell phone
wouldn't
data.
Someone do that? Wouldn't someone be in charge of going and collecting the ballots from the drop-offs? They don't just stay there.
No, not collecting them from the drop-offs, but collecting them from people or from wherever.
Oh, you mean people that were going around
dropping them off?
Like they went to the nursing home, got all
the ballot harvesting. They were ballot harvesting.
Well, yeah, that's still, I guess, kind of legal as long as you're not filling out people's ballots. So if you're just delivering them, I think that was legal, wasn't it?
I honestly, it's been a long time since I watched that, so I don't remember all the details.
I think the question was that there was some sort of a warehouse or something that had been. I don't remember either. Never mind. I kind of remember, but I don't remember enough to talk about it.
Yeah,
so
I watched it one time a year when it came out, which was like 4 years ago or something. But Shot Red says that incident Antifa battle with cops in the woods.
I don't know what that means.
I don't.
There was a story from today where I don't know who it was, but they were running over ICE people with their car.
That could be anybody.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but
Dino says back up his claim that Charlie was racist. Now, let me get this. From what I gathered when we talked about it last night, you weren't saying Charlie Kirk was racist, but that he knew where his bread was buttered and knew that racists liked him. Well, that was more your argument than whether or not he was actually racist. Is that right?
He didn't want to alienate that audience. But no, I do think he's probably racist because, I'm a little racist. He was raised very Christian. When I was being raised Christian, it confirmed my racism more often than not, according to a lot of the preachings. So
I've never heard him say anything overtly
I don't find
racist.
It hard to believe that he's a racist. I did believe a lot of the policies he supported were racist based, and I don't believe he did anything to dispel that. So I didn't care for his opinions on those things.
Real quick, I do want to back up. Just because somebody's Christian doesn't mean they're raised racist.
If you're Southern Baptist, it does.
Okay, well, I don't know nothing about Southern Baptist.
And then if you're black, it even more means that.
Well,
so some of the most racist people I've ever met in my life are Southern Baptists, black Southern Baptists from Mississippi.
Dino says, Yankee to Matt, well, what you saw was wrong. I don't remember what we were fucking talking about. I have no idea. He also says
probably true. I mean, look at your glasses. Look how thick they are.
That's how I can see the right things. Mm-hmm. You don't quote people who post their sources. It makes it harder for Yankee to lie.
Nobody quoted any sources. So what sources were quoted? I think the only sources quoted all night was the U.S. immigration thing.
Dino says, oh my God, again, Doe v. United States, Hispanic is an ethnicity, not a race.
Yeah, because are they technically Caucasian?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. I don't like how in the FBI statistics they group Hispanic and white together in crime statistics. I wish that they would keep them separately.
Well, white isn't a race either. Caucasian would be the race. And I think Hispanics, a lot of Middle Easterns, they're all technically Caucasian.
Right. And I think that screws up the data.
Well, I don't, because I think they're just people. So I don't really care what tone of white they are.
Dino says Democrats want illegals on the census so they can get more seats in Congress. I have seen things that would make me think that. Yeah, like I said, my argument is simply I think that the Democrats, and don't get me wrong, I don't think that the Republicans wouldn't do the same thing if they thought that people coming here would vote for them. They do the exact same fucking thing, by the way. And I think it is a power grab to get as many people to vote for them as possible. And in situations like that, if you can get people counted on the census, that is something that we have seen. There have been undercover reports that have come out of California in the that have said that they've been actively trying to do that to change the census. So, but again, this is not, to me, these are not conspiracy level fucking things. This is just like, yeah, political parties are going to do shit to try and get more votes and more seats in representation and things like that. It just so happens that right now, I do believe it is the Democrats that are trying to do that, primarily simply because, according to the numbers and the statistics, it wouldn't do the Republicans any good to try and do that.
Yeah, and it makes sense that they would do that. But here's the thing. It's not an attack on white culture or white voters or white power.
I don't think it is.
It's an attack on if the Democrats thought right now, if we would get the most votes by letting half of Sweden immigrate right now, if they would vote Democrat, they'd do it. It isn't about race. So when you try to make it about race, when you bring in the white aspect, you ruin your credibility and you look racist whether you are or you aren't.
All right. Kowloon says, laugh my ass off. Yankee in the same breath, both denying the fact that testosterone levels are falling and saying it's normal and natural. Clown.
That's not what we said. I said it's not to the extent that people like to say it is. A lot of those studies were done by testosterone replacement organizations, but some loss of testosterone and the degradation of the Y chromosome is normal. And if you don't understand that, well, that's just your stupidity. It's not my problem.
There was I think it was the Try Guys or something. They did a testosterone test as like just for like a gag on one of their videos, and they all had like I don't know what the numbers were, but it was a meme going around the internet.
How old are they?
How they were all like 20, 25, something like that, and they all had like such low testosterone levels that it was a meme going around the internet. Still is actually.
Did they do a test on I can't remember something themselves in a? On a show,
like they have a YouTube channel where they do stuff.
Go to a doctor and get it tested and see what your actual number is. A lot of these tests you get from these companies that want to sell you testosterone, they'll read way lower than you actually are. And if you're over 40, it should be pretty low.
Andrew P. says,
shit. Damn it.
The Know Nothing Party was anti-immigrant Catholic. At least I think that's what he was trying to say with that Catholi at the end. The Know Nothing Party was anti-immigrant Catholic.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, I know I'm not sure what that means. I know there was a very, very, especially in politics, but kind of in mass, in the first half of the 20th century, the country was pretty anti-Catholic. I mean, especially when it came to politics, very, very anti-Catholic.
Oh, yeah.
It was. That's why it was that was one of the reasons anyway, why it was a very big deal when JFK won.
Because he was Catholic, yeah.
Yeah. So.
It showed that there had been a shift in the popular thinking.
Andrew Hickler says Yankee is a self-hating racist that likes to call other people racist. See the Birmingham video for proof.
Oh yeah, that's real smart.
Are you talking about the guy that tried to carjack you or something?
The guy that tried to carjack me.
Yeah, we've all heard that story.
Yeah, I told that story myself. So the very fact he thinks he could use that as something against me shows how stupid he is.
Calhoun says Jazz Jennings doesn't exist. That's straight gaslighting. I don't think we should let that go so easy. You can believe Yankee or your eyes, but not both.
I didn't say she didn't exist or he didn't exist or whoever he is. I said I never saw their genitalia to prove that what was happening on a reality show was real.
Right.
I think that the number of children who have had gender reassignment surgery is not zero, and that doctors who have done these surgeries,
it's not zero because there's lots of times there's medical reasons for it.
Well, not every time. I don't think.
I'd say most times. I don't think there's a rash of kids having gender reassignment surgery.
I hope it's going down, but I know that for a while there, that
was never up to go down. So,
Andrew P says Dems want welfare immigrant votes, which is what I think he's trying to say. And yes, I mean, let's be honest. The whole idea of Democrats going really, really hard line into welfare programs is not because they give a shit. It's because they want votes. It's because that's how you get people to vote for you. Give them free shit.
And while they're preaching all that, when they're saying we want this and we want that, they're still selling out the same people they're preaching to in reality because the rich people don't want that.
I would have a lot less problem with the level of immigration that we have into this country if immigrants weren't given all that they're. I get some people need some help, but we don't need people in our country who just need help. You know, we need people who are here to help.
I'll go one further, and I'll say you shouldn't be allowed to immigrate unless you can show that you can take care of yourself and you can be a benefit to the country.
Well, that's what every other fucking country does.
Drop any kind of benefits from that country until you've worked for a certain amount of time and added to the system or whatever. You know?
You shouldn't come in saying I'm already poor and living in a shack and I'm going to do that in America. No, well then we don't need you. Now, the only time I think that there's an exception to that is like, say, you live in El Salvador and you started a program in your neighborhood to try to get the drug dealers out of your neighborhood, and now the cartel's targeting you individually. Well, then you get asylum. But just saying, hey, if you're poor and you don't like the shitty country you live in because you made it shitty with the way you lived your lives and who you let run things, well, then come on over here and make it shitty here. I don't like that.
The problem with the whole asylum thing, though, is like so many people came over the border and were just like, yep, asylum. And then they're like, okay, cool. Our asylum courts are backed up like 2 years. So you have a court date, but it's 2 years in the future. And then they just never show up.
And I'm okay with if that happens, if someone comes in and says they're claiming asylum and they can't show it with certainty right away, then maybe we should build some housing complexes in Mexico and they can all stay there until they prove their case.
That's racist.
It's racist. Johnny Johnson says, Yankee, say what you want about marijuana. Times are changing and you're also sounding like the old guy in the group. Or should I say my older?
Hey, everyone in here knows I've always been very pro marijuana. Always. Always been pro marijuana just for the medicinal purpose. I think it's less dangerous than alcohol as a recreational thing. That was a direct attack on EHonda and how much marijuana.
You just said it wasn't an ad hominem attack. Make up your fucking mind.
It's a direct attack and it was relevant to the point. So it's not ad hominem.
I am, as someone who in Colorado, when we were talking about legalizing it, marched and protested and did all of the things to get marijuana legalized in Colorado first. Look back on that decision as a bad one. Because not that it shouldn't be legal, but
because of what it brought to your state.
Yeah.
What did it bring to the state?
So like everyone from every other state who's like, oh, I've been waiting for a state to legalize it, and they came here with a pipe and a dream. They drove up the cost of housing. The crime rate's different. Everything's.
Well, if they're driving up the cost of housing, they must be pretty well off. If they're driving up the cost of housing.
Well, it's a supply and demand thing. Right?
I thought it would be bums showing up and stuff.
Supply and demand, and there are there's way more bums than we've ever had too.
We always had plenty of those. I don't know if it made any difference when we legalized marijuana.
Well, it did for us.
All right. Engine Guy says, interrupting nonstop made you sound childish, Yankee.
Oh, I'm sorry you were triggered.
It is annoying to not be able to get through a point.
If you got a point, make it. I got very little patience.
They really tried.
For 5-page diatribes over stuff.
I mean, it's a complicated point that I was making, and I had to walk through it. And you interrupted me to the point where I think a lot of it was lost. It wasn't as effective as I was hoping it would be because I couldn't just get through it real quick.
Well,
it would have been 4 minutes.
You couldn't have got through that real quick, period.
I did it before the chat. I did it in 4 minutes.
Patience for that. And
I did it in 4 fucking minutes.
Speech? Oh my God. Come on. Reading a speech.
He's just interrupting you now, giving your
I know, he's doing the same thing. Childish.
Yeah. All right. Shot Red says, would you be okay if I called you Vanilla Gorilla, Yankee?
I'm fine with that. I like that, actually.
Calhoun says, tell Yanker that's literally what Charlie was doing, and that's literally why they shot him, talking to the other side.
Oh, I never denied that.
We know that. Yankee agrees with that.
We all know that. That don't mean I got to agree with all of his policies or pretend to agree with his policies.
All right. Calhoun says, Antifa groups literally did an attack on July 4th. They did?
They did. I didn't know.
I'm not saying they didn't. I don't remember.
Attack me. That's all I know. But like I say, I look at Antifa like I look at neo-Nazis. I don't think there's enough of them that it actually makes a big difference in the country. And I think they're easy to avoid.
I don't think, like with anything, I don't think it's. I think this is bore out in reality many times. I don't think it is the organized groups, whether they be large or small. I don't think it's the organized groups that have ever been necessarily a real problem as a group. Most of the issues we've had, whether it was Charlie Kirk or, whatever, go through the list of all the things. The guy that got shot at the fucking Antifa rally where he got shot square in the chest because he was wearing a Trump hat, whatever the fuck it was, right? It's the individual that gets pulled into the bullshit of a particular point of view. Most of the time, I mean, at least in this century, even your KKK types, right? Like, they're not actually out there doing anything.
There's not enough of them.
There's not enough of them. Plus, they know they couldn't get. They know they can't fucking get away with anything.
If there was as many of them now as there was back in like the 50s and the 60s, they would still be doing stuff. And if they thought they could still get away with it now, like they did back then, they'd still be doing.
Yeah, well, and then that's the point. They can't get away with it.
But even then, they wouldn't be the majority.
Like, I'm not worried about Antifa as a group.
Yeah, I'm not.
The one nut job Antifa member who decides to fucking take a rifle and start taking pop shots at people, that might be a concern.
Well, that brings up another topic, though. If you're someone who says something inflammatory that you actually agree, and then some nut job does it, is it your fault because you said something that set off a nut job, or is it the nut job's fault?
Did you intend for the nut job to do that? Was it a person saying, oh, would someone rid me of this priest? And then the priest gets killed and you're like, oh, I didn't actually ask for that.
Well, that would be different. That's an outright threat on someone. That's actually a conspiracy to commit murder. But if you're just preaching hateful things, like these people are horrible and they're disgusting and they shouldn't be around, like let's say gay people, and then someone goes out and kills a gay person because someone online said that they were horrible. Is it the person preaching his opinions about gay people? Is it his fault that someone killed someone?
I think there is a line, and it's a legal term or whatever, a legal fucking definition. And I don't know what the actual,
But you're talking about making credible and actionable threats.
There is a line, yeah.
Well, there's also lines, and Destiny is a great choice for what we were talking about.
In EHonda's face,
there is a line in that. Can you? So, did what Destiny say? Is it illegal? No. Should it be illegal?
I'm not sure that it wasn't illegal. I think it.
No, there's debate on that right now. When
I went and looked it up after you said something, he didn't say people should go out and kill him. He said he wasn't going to apologize for the killing until Trump tried.
No, that's not what he said.
No, he said a lot.
He said a lot more than that. He said conservatives should be afraid of being killed at conservative rallies.
Well,
and
that's true too. I can actually agree with
and
that.
And he said either they should be afraid of being killed because that's the only way that things will change. And he also said that if you didn't want Charlie Kirk to die, you shouldn't have made sure that Trump got a second term.
Well, that I understood the context of when I watched it, because he was saying that if you voted for the party, his words and his opinion, if you voted for the party that supports violence and is, tearing everybody else down, well, then you can't be surprised when something like this happens. But that wasn't a good way to say it, that's for sure. And then what was the other woman that was on the panel with him, that Ava something, who called him, "You're the worst of us."
Yeah.
Well, he also
like I said, the point was there may be a line where, and I don't know what this is did what Destiny said, is it illegal? Should it be illegal? Should he have the right to say shit like that? Yeah. If enough people that are prominent are going around saying things like that are fully aware that people take their opinions as gospel, at what point does it become, and I have no idea. I'm not saying this as if I have the answer, but at what point does it become something you can look at and go, okay, at a certain point, all these people know they're speaking to a lot of people in a way that eventually is going to get a reaction. And I don't have an answer for it. I'm not claiming that I do, but at a certain point, and this goes back to the KKK 100 years ago. Like, at a certain point, all the shit they were going around saying was encouraging people to do things in addition to the things they themselves were doing. And pick any, group of people or any person that has a voice, that knows they are a thought leader in a community or online or as a politician or whatever. And at what point do we, at least morally, if not legally, at least morally, start to hold them accountable for, like, okay, you've been saying this type of shit for a really long time and to a whole lot of people, and then somebody actually did something. And I don't have that answer. I'm just curious what you guys think.
Stop with that. Where do we?
See, that's the problem. Is it's a really, really fine line of, like, at what point are you violating freedoms?
If we start censoring speech that isn't a direct call for violence, if it isn't a direct and actionable call for violence, if we start just censoring speech that's hateful.
No, and I agree.
What about if there's a lot of indirect calls for violence that end up causing violence? Is there like a level there that
what would be an indirect call for violence?
Again, would be something like, someone rid me of this priest, or wow, those Nazis. No,
that's not indirect. That's pretty direct. That's saying someone go murder this priest for me, and then someone listening can go, well, I'll do it. So you are actually asking someone to do something. If you just say, hey, priests are diddling kids and people ought to be dragging them out in the street and cutting their dick off, and then someone goes and does it, well, you're not responsible for that.
I don't know. I guess it'd be more like
there's
all
these
Nazi people out here, and we must fight against them in every way possible, and this is a war, and we have to win, and there's no limit to what you have to do to win. We have to win, like that. Like, I've heard them say stuff like that recently.
And I just saw that Proud Boys guy saying, if you're pro-gay, I'm hunting you. If you're a Democrat, I'm hunting you. If you're liberal, I'm hunting you. I don't say you shouldn't be able to say it.
What does that mean? I don't know. I don't even know what that means. But when
I'm hunting you, you don't know what that means?
Yeah, I mean, it could mean I'm hunting.
I don't think there's any misconception about what that means. I think we're trying to play semantics if you have a misconception about what that means.
Well, I think they're literally.
I still think he has every right to say it, as long as he's not directly saying, I'm going to kill this person. I mean, what he said might actually cross over legally into actionable, and he has the means and the desire. So it might actually transfer over into illegal, and it's being looked into, I'm sure. But if he would have said, as far as I'm concerned, if you're any of these things, people should be hunting you down, then that's hateful. But I got no problem with it. You can say what you want. And if any nut job acts on it, that's on them. If you're dumb enough to be manipulated by the people who aren't going to do anything to jeopardize their own freedom and their own riches, if you're going to be manipulated by those people, well, then you being out of the gene pool probably is not the biggest issue if you go to prison.
How many Manchurian candidates do you think are in the United States right now? Like, how many people are primed for violence and targeting political assassination type thing?
I don't think very many, or we'd have a lot more political assassinations. I mean, look at countries that actually have a lot of political assassinations, and they exist. We're not one of them.
We're not one of them yet.
Well, we're not one of them. Well, we can't deal with the future. We can only deal with the past and the present, and we aren't one of
them. Yet.
Well, I can also say that we aren't made out of cream cheese yet, but that doesn't make it any more important of a statement.
I don't think that's an eventuality.
I don't
cream
think
cheese
is an eventuality either. I can say we aren't all Mormons yet. That doesn't mean it's
I hope that's not an eventuality. Got to get that underwear.
All right, let's get through these. Calhoun says, "Fuck you, Yankee, you literal piece of shit, bigot, literal discrimination. I'd tell you to go to hell, but you already are there."
Boy, he got triggered, didn't he?
Jesus.
He's got really triggered. I hope he made that name up in time to be triggered on here and look stupid.
Preston Garvey says, "There is no correlation between Southern Baptists and racism."
Yeah, right. Live as a Southern Baptist. Black Southern Baptists hate white people. I will go on. Well, a large percentage of it. I know I'm going to get hate for that. But
there's a lot of black people that hate white people. It sucks.
Racism is rampant in the black community. Homophobia is far more rampant in the black community than it is in the white community.
Callan dropped in another one, says, "Just because Yankee's dad was a racist and went to church with racist buds doesn't make all Southern Baptists racist. He should call a black Southern Baptist racist. I'm not listening to this bigot." Isn't that what you just said?
Not literally what I said even the first time. I said, especially if you were black Southern Baptist. So he gets triggered and can't even hear. What is he, deaf? How do you get triggered when you can't hear what's being said? Or maybe he's just listening to the parts he wants to listen to.
I don't know.
Have you ever seen this person before, this name? Is that a regular?
Calhoun? Yeah, Calhoun's a regular. He's here all the time.
Is he a moron?
He's here almost every chat.
What's his problem? Why is he so easily triggered?
I don't know. Maybe he just didn't hear maybe he thought you were just saying that white people are racist if they're Southern Baptists. I don't know.
That's not what I said.
Because that's what we were talking about at first. So maybe
that's not what I said. So why would he hear that? I mean, is he just a moron?
I don't know what he might not have heard that he might have just
obviously very sensitive. So I don't know much about him, but he's obviously very sensitive and he doesn't seem to pay attention.
All right. Well, that is all of the super chats we have here.
Granted, I will add though that he could have said that before we just said the other thing.
Could have got there. Let's see if I see anything real quick here to bring up.
Don't look at my channel.
It's all in one, dude. It's all combined together.
Let me give you permission to invade my privacy.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. I think we're caught up. I think that is going to wrap it up for today.
Yeah. Only 3.5 hours later or something. 2.5 hours.
Almost 2 hours and 40 minutes. There you go. Hey, we haven't stayed up late and done a bitching at each other chat in a really fucking long time.
It used to be every night.
It used to be literally every fucking night.
You know, I gotta say, I feel better about you, Yankee, than I did before the chat. Because
I gotta say, I don't care.
Well, that's great. Like I did have some preconceived notions because there were some people who were saying some things that hit me in a certain kind of way, and I was very gratified to hear that that's not what you said. So
if only one of those ways would have been with a bus. But just seriously, though, you're aging terribly. I know I'm aging terribly, but you're aging really bad. I mean, you're single still. You should be. You don't take the uniform off before the race is over.
I'm just glad I don't look like you. Jesus Christ, look at that.
No, you're not as old as I am. I'm old, and I don't want to look like me either. What makes anyone in there think I'm glad to look like me? I even have it worse because I used to be attractive before all this.
All right, girls. Calm down. We can all agree I'm the best looking one here. Anyway.
Well, we can all agree on one thing. At least
that's not even up for
he and
debate.
He and I aren't bald.
I'm intentionally bald, first of all, and by the way,
you don't got a luscious head of hair like this.
Yes, that luscious, patchy head of hair.
Mm-hmm. Hey, this is sexy. The receded hair.
43
someone,
here,
I'm sure
man.
it is.
All the hair, well, mostly.
Honda's the only one that has like a full head of hair.
Yeah.
So,
which is another reason to not like him.
Anyway, all right, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. We will do this again at some point.
Who won?
Oh, I didn't even fucking check. Let me see.
I'm sure it's going to be Honda. It's a
Honda with 71% won.
Yeah, if we did it on, and what did he win on? What was the point we made that anybody won on?
I guess we kind of floated around to several different topics.
Yeah,
so
I think my main point was that there's a mass hysteria of Trump derangement syndrome that's leading to a lot of violence and craziness in the country right now.
I just don't see that as reality because crime statistics aren't up.
There's reasons for that. But again, we're done, so I'm not going to say it.
All right. Well, we will do this again, as I said. If you or someone you know would like to have a debate about something relevant to the channel, politics, guns, things like that, we can do it here. That's what I want to do with this channel, at least for the live chat stuff.
Maybe our next chat could be why grown men shouldn't play with dolls.
We'd both be fucked, by the way.
That's an ad hominem if I ever heard one.
No, he's just fucking looking in the mirror when he talks that shit. Motherfucker has more than me.
Yeah, but I don't show people.
Just because you fucking hide it don't mean shit.
I hide it. It's above eye line over here, so you can't see it.
Including all your storage boxes full of shit. Anyway.
Dozens of storage boxes full of shit.
All right.
Although I have donated a lot of my comic books. I've donated thousands and thousands of comic books because they're a good tax write-off. Well, you get to write off the cover price.
All right. All right. That's going to be it. We'll see you guys next time. Adios, motherfuckers. And I don't know. What the fuck ever. Later.
Fuck all of you.